Motorsport UK TV, the home of unmissable British motorsport video. Bringing you all the action from the British Championships. Taking you behind the scenes. Giving you top tips to succeed in every discipline. Showcasing the best equipment. And much, much more. Visit motorsportuk.tv today and make sure you never miss a moment.
Well, welcome along everyone to the brand new season of the British Formula 4 Esports Championship as we get ready to get things underway in West Kingsdown in Kent. The site, of course, which saw the finale of the 2022 Championship where Luke McEwen took the title, as well, of course, as being the host of the real British Formula 4 finale next month. Those took part, though, on the Grand Prix layout, which, of course, today we are not going around. We are taking on the Indy layout as we head on to the first round of racing. My name is Lewis McGlade. Alongside me and my partner in crime for the championship is Cameron Roger. Now, Cam, we're here for a bit of fun, of course. Got 4 races across the evening and, yeah, it's going to be an interesting one.
Yes, certainly is. Always good when you kick off a brand new championship, and as ever with the 2 divisions as such that we've got loads of racing to come your way. Also with the reverse grid as well for the second race in both of those, so definitely, yeah, spicing it up a little bit this evening.
Yeah, of course, we had an exciting championship last year where we saw Luke McEwen taking that title at the Brands Hatch Grand Prix. So I had a really solid second half of the season, so it kind of has that thing of, and I'm sure it would be the same in both. Getting a decent qualifying under your belt and just finishing somewhere inside that top 5 in the first race and keeping out of trouble in those second races. We'll take a look at the format for the evening as we'll begin with the Formula 1600 Esports Cup. We'll discuss a little bit more about how this is going to work and the prize for it as the evening goes on. They're under qualifying conditions at the moment. They've just begun on that before we get into 2 15-minute races. There'll be a reverse grid for that second race, and between those we'll be getting our first Formula 4 race as well. It'll go Formula 1600, then Formula 4, then Formula 1600, then Formula 4 before we get through to the end of the evening. Should be a fun one, and something nice and different for us to deal with, Cam, isn't it?
Yes, certainly is. And of course, as you see there with the reverse grid, it is randomly chosen between position 5 and 10. So we'll have the spinny wheel come up on your screen after that first race to work out as well. So it's a little bit difficult for the drivers. If you're in that fight for P6, P7, P8, then of course you then need to you don't necessarily know where you're going to finish in terms of the reverse grid.
We're racing at Brands Indy. That's our first round of the calendar. We'll take a look at the schedule throughout the season. We go to Donington Park National, the Snetterton 300. That is not one of Cam's favourites, apparently. We're finding that one out as we're going in. Alton Park International, which is a little bit different. It's a bit more high speed, throwing it around the big hairpin round there. Silverstone Grand Prix, Knock Hill, Donington Park Grand Prix, and then Brands Hatch Grand Prix to round out the season. As, to be honest, it really should. We're beginning things here at Brands Indy, Cam. It is potentially my least favourite circuit on that calendar. I'm not a huge fan of Brands Indy. You may not like Snetterton, but this is not my home.
Yeah, it's definitely tricky tracks here on British soil, and yeah, increase from last season. Well, only had 6 races last season, so definitely good to see an increase of that. And of course, all the different sort of tracks that we have is going to be a bit of a different one for the drivers to work out. Although this car generally works well at pretty much all the tracks.
Indeed. So West Kingsdown in Kent then, Brands Indy. We'll take a little bit of a look around the circuit, riding on board with one of our Formula 1600s. Tricky little track, obviously not very long. They used to do this in reverse back in the ye old days on motorcycles when it was basically just a dirt patch. Going into Paddock Hill, expect a lot of oversteer on entry, understeer on exit, taking you out to that gravel trap on the left-hand side, which will pull you straight into the barrier if you're not careful. Into Druids, you want a slightly later apex round here to get you a decent charge nudge down the hill. You can use a fair amount of that curb on the exit, as well as running through here at Graham Hill Bend. This is the one that will almost certainly pick up an awful lot of off-tracks throughout the qualifying they'll be in at the moment, and then the run up through Surtees and into the final corner at Clearways. A lot of understeering here. It is probably one of my least favourite corners in the entire country, but when you hook it up right, it is nice. Watch out for the understeer to drag you out. Dip two wheels onto that grass and you will get pulled straight into the gravel trap. You won't get pulled to the barrier, but you'll definitely lose a few positions. It is a very, very short lap, and it's certainly sub-minute even in these cars, which, let's be honest, Cam, they don't exactly have the most amount of power in the world.
No, they really don't actually, but 116 horsepower in these cars. So they're going to have to use the momentum of the car very well. And considering there's only 4 corners on the track, really, then, it's going to be very tight in qualifying. Every little mistake, every little slide is going to be so close. And here are the standings as it sits in already the top 14 within half a second, just proving how close it is.
Yeah, Zero Zambra is the driver who we're looking at here in the number 78. Hashtag no bias, but represent. Will come across the line, but then kind of everything just gets thrown up into the mix as everyone's kind of out on circuit. It's a lone qualifying session. Jason Cooper was the one to improve into second place there. And I've got to say, 400 of a second around here is actually kind of an age. It is such a short lap, being only 48 seconds long. If you've got that stranglehold by that kind of margin, that's a really solid effort.
Yeah, it certainly is. And yeah, you're right. When you get to the upper echelons and you're going for every last thousandth of a second, 42 of them is actually quite a lot. You've got to get your braking right. You can see the amount of changes of steering wheel direction they do, especially on the entry of the corners. Obviously not much grip, not much downforce in these cars. You've got to use every single bit of road and try and have the perfect line. It's certainly very difficult. So a couple of improvements there. Williams up into the top 12.
On board with Mac Farquhar into the final sector. Using a lot of that curb on the left-hand side. That I'm not sure will be particularly fast. You can see how long they were scrambling for grip coming up towards the exit of Surtees. You don't really want to hammer that curb too much. I'm sure we will see quite a few people hammer it in the race, mostly courtesy of them going side by side up towards that section. Just as a bit of an FYI as well, when it comes to this session, they only, whilst it's a lone qualifying, they only get 4 laps in this session, so they don't get an unlimited amount of time to hammer them in around Brands Hatch, which, I mean, normally around here, if that were the case, we would see them out on circuit for the entirety of the session, knocking in lap times constantly. Kind of makes you wonder if the tyres get better as the stint goes on, as they kind of like come up to temperature, meaning we might see some decent lap times coming in the latter stages qualifying. But quite a lot of drivers have already basically done their 4 laps already.
Yes, certainly. Some of them will be done for the session. They just got to wait and hope that no one improves on their lap time, as Stevakowski there comes across the line. And unfortunately, he's just in 24th place. Hope they're jumped up into the top 8 as well, just 2/10 off pole. As we're now seeing Badger come around that final corner, just about a second off pole position as it stands in P23. A long run to the line, though, so you've got to hope that you got a good exit and just wait and go up the gears and try and get yourself an improvement. Across the line, P23 as it stands, and no, he's going to stay there for now.
Going to actually move up into 13th. Just call that one. It was actually a bit of an improvement. 3/10 off of the pole and a whopping margin position-wise to the front of the field. The only driver yet to go out in this session is Andy Shield, by the way. 25th position on the road. Sorry, correct myself. That is an admin, so we'll not talk about that. As Stepanovsky will come across the line. I believe that might be the last lap time in the session from them. Might actually have another one. If not, is basically just tipping... just getting some extra little practice in. But I think we've got one more.
Yeah, just as you say, maybe the extra couple of laps, because the racing is going to be so close around here. It's going to be difficult to make the passes as well. Not the longest straights in the world. Of course, they are fairly long in these low horsepower cars. So definitely the racecraft is going to be quite a big thing around here. And any last thousandth of improvement you can do, or sort of getting more comfortable in the car, that's going to really help you in this races. As we're getting around the final corner, this potentially will be the last lap of the session. Still a couple of minutes left, but all the laps done from these drivers.
Yeah, there is one who actually does have a lap time left to go. Henry Moore, actually, our pole sitter. That was done on the 3rd lap and bailed from it. So I think well, technically, I don't think you'd be able to do the time, but it's only registered as 3 lap times counted within the session. But it does seem as though Moore will secure the pole position for the first Formula 1600 race of the season. So solid effort there, but taking it by a comfortable margin, a few hundredths of a second, Cam. And yeah, if you, like I say, if you're taking that kind of margin around a Brands Hatch, that's pretty comfortable. But racing around here, especially in cars like this, so low downforce and all that, it's basically just going to be a lot of pack racing.
Oh, it certainly is, and I'm sure the slipstream will actually be quite a big effect, especially down that front straight. But I mean, I'm just looking at some of the gaps between the drivers. There's literally a few thousandths between every driver as it goes down. About 44 thousandths just separating the top 3, for instance. So close between these drivers, and they really need to, just find a way past their opponents. But the important thing is, it's 15 minutes. There's a lot of laps around here, especially what we're under 50 seconds a lap. It's going to be something like 18, 19 laps for the race. So you've got to have actually a bit of racecraft about you as well, a bit of strategy going into it, and when you want to start making those moves forward.
And of course, this, by the way, just if you're tuning in and you're panicking a little bit, being like, wait, where's the British Formula 4 side of things? That will be coming up later on. This is the support category to it. So we're doing one of these Formula 1600 races, and then we'll be moving into the first qualifying session of the British Formula 4 Esports season, obviously followed by the first British Formula 4 Esports race of the 2023 championship. So that will be coming up after this race. And like I say, I'm looking forward to this. It's something a little bit different. Obviously having a support category to it. We didn't have one last season. We did have it in the season finale, the All-Star Cup, which was an awful lot of fun. But this is something different. And of course, Cam, the prize for this, for the top 2, is winning a seat in the British Formula 4 Esports Championship next season, having a fully funded seat in the British Formula 4 Esports side of things, which is pretty cool. Like to have that support series and a step up into that, which kind of can be a little bit out of reach from your everyday sim racer.
Yeah, it definitely is a little bit exclusive in that way. We've got so many top teams, and obviously a barrier of entry with the entry fee as well. So getting that as a prize is certainly a really good one for these drivers. They're all racing as independents as well, so they're sort of just battling for themselves to see what they can do to try and get into that championship next year.
We'll take a look at the starting grid for the first Formula 1600 race. Henry Moore will start this one from pole position alongside Jason Cooper on that front row. Zero Zambra will start from 3rd, with Adam Tompkins starting from 4th place. Martin Vilk will start from 5th, and Isaac Phelps inside that top 6 on the first page. Every single one of our drivers qualifying within a second of that pole time. Roddy Smith will be starting from 7th with William Hope, hoping for a better result than 8th. Dana Moore in 9th place with Ollie Whittle in 10th. Edward Hope in 11th place with Sikorsky starting from 12th. Jack Badger, we saw the final qualifying lap from them. We'll start from 13th position with Caulfield in 14th. Crispin Williams on the 8th row of the grid alongside Matthew Crisp. Connor Scudo and Cameron Knowles will start from 18th. Inside the top 20 with the final couple of positions, Oliver Ettridge and Mac McFarquhar will start from 20th. Aaron Mensah, certainly a name that we've seen a few times, with Jordan Groves starting from 22nd place. 23rd for Brandon Loden. And of course, the final position on the grid being Aldrich Stepanovsky. Should be a fun one though. Obviously 15 minutes onto the board, and a tough race around Brands Indy to begin the season. Cam, prediction very quickly. Who's going to win?
More from pole.
Cool. I mean, it's kind of a wild stab in the dark for all of us. I'm going to go against it just with the front row, though, and go with Jason Cooper. Waiting for the final ones to jump onto the grid before we get to that first race of the season, before we get it underway. And there should be an awful lot of fun. I don't know what we're expecting, Cam, when it comes down to that first corner, but I'm sure it is going to be hugely, hugely dramatic.
Yeah, not much of a braking zone there, so look for people trying to sweep around the outside, but of course the gravel is there to catch you if you push it a little bit too fast. And of course, first race of the season for everyone. Let's see how this goes.
Well, here we go then. 15 minutes onto the clock, and of course it's Henry Moore on pole position, ready to take control. We are green at Brands Hatch as we race our way down towards Paddock Hill for the first time, putting all 116 brake horsepower into the road. It is a solid start from our pole sitter, but Jason Cooper's challenging around the outside, firing it into the first corner. It's Henry Moore leading. Zero Zambra's going to get to the inside as they head up towards Druids for the first time, and it is a decent start for our pole sitter. Henry Moore will hold on to the race lead, and those inside the top 10 look pretty clean. Cam, I'm not sure what's happened behind that.
Yeah, they certainly are side by side in the background as drivers try and work their way into that single file formation, but these positions are certainly going to be very important from third place there. Cooper has a bit of a run up through 30s at side by side. Not often going to see that between the two of them. This is going to give them a bit of a lead for Moore as they start fighting all in the background. There's Tompkins going off.
Yeah, Tompkins, I think there was almost contact. Was actually maybe a little bit scared of getting onto brakes, courtesy of how close Isaac Phelps was behind the rear end, heading into that final corner, going straight on, just 2 wheels onto the grass, and that is not conducive to good braking. Plenty of side-by-side behind the top 4. You've got VLK and Amor. There's a big one, though, for Jason Cooper. I've cursed him, apparently.
Yeah, certainly is real today. Coming to Paddock Hill Bend, who's going a bit too wide on the entry, and unfortunately losing so many places, dropping down to about P16. A few other drivers maybe getting past him in towards Druids as well. You see everyone taking that opportunity. When you see a position sort of gap open up, you have to send it in there in a type of racing like this.
And this is going to be really, really difficult for Cooper. He's now got to try and find their way back through all of this. And trust me, this circuit is not easy to overtake at. It's a really tricky one. 1v1 is not too bad, but when you're coming along and trying to fight your way through a pack, it is almost impossible to work your way through. So yet another lap complete. Henry Moore will be our race leader from Zero Zambra. Isaac Phelps, Ronnie Smith, Dana Moore as well behind all of that, but Ronnie Smith is actually going to work their way into 3rd position. So Ronnie Smith's having a great start to this race.
Certainly is. He needs to defend now in towards Druids. Those very tricky break-ins. I know you can actually brake really late in these cars. They're taking so much speed for the sort of the power to weight that they are in that car, but it seems like he's working his way forward. He needs to now try and catch down Zambra if they're starting to battle ahead. Oh, who is that going around? Okay, he's gone round outside the top 10 now, and he's going to be dropping way down to the back of the field. Yeah,
and the worst place to do it as well, because you've got to wait for everyone to go through to get back underway, and unfortunately Martin Wilkes actually dropped back to 23rd position. The only person behind is Brandon Loudon, who's actually had a really terrible start to the day. So not ideal there, but ideal up here. Race lead. Zambra's going to go for a move around the outside. It was at least closing in the slipstream. Was looking for something. I get the feeling that that Henry Moore is going to be under a fair amount of pressure, as Hope's had a problem. Edward Hope is dropping down the order. That'll be at the first corner as well.
Oh, already seeing quite a few drivers having some problems. Yeah, maybe a slowdown as well. Just add insult to injury. That's too wide, though, for the number 11 machine. And that is another position loss. As Cooper, on his bit of a return from his spin earlier, is having a good time getting back up into that 13th place. As I said, more in, so 3-4 cars going around as coming towards Graham Hill.
Yeah, Scoodle is one of them. So Connor Scoodle's around, also being joined by Aaron Menzer, who's also had a problem. So both of those will drop back behind Martin Vilk. Here comes another look for the race lead. Henry Moore hanging on to it at the moment. Zambra is going to go to the outside, will drop back into the slipstream. I think with that move over quite early, you were seeing this quite a bit on the start-finish straight, that Zambra's moving over to the left-hand side of the circuit, the right-hand side of the shot, quite early on that. I think that's to get out of the slipstream, not looking to go for a move straight away, but goodness me, is getting very close to Henry Moore going through Druids.
Yeah, if they start battling, then the gap is going to close down behind. What they want to do is they want to get to the last sort of 5 minutes or so with a huge gap behind them so they can have battles. It's all changed outside of the top 3. Smith has dropped down to 5th place. Amor now up into 3rd. Phelps dropping down to 4th. Great battles here inside the top 5.
Yeah, I think there might have been a little bit of a mistake out wide. Ronnie Smith went. And you've got side-by-side behind that as well between Hope, that one being William Hope, and Owen Whittle as well. Crisp's had a bit of a problem and has dropped right the way down the order. That side-by-side continues behind all of this as we see them funnel their way into the first corner. Whittle will get past William Hope in that first corner and up now into 6th position. Plenty of little battle packs in all of this as Amor will try and hang on to the final step on the podium. But of course, ladies and gents, we are only 4 minutes and 30 seconds into the first race of the Formula 1600 season, so there's got plenty more action yet to come.
And Edward Hope's dropping down again, now into 20th place. That's another 5-6 places lost, potentially going off the track again, unfortunately, for Edward. That's a couple of spins he had in the last couple of laps, and that is just going to be dropping you down. It's so difficult to come back up one position, let alone 3, 4, 5. But he's going to have to get back up. Points only for the top 10 as well, remember. The standard sort of FIA points system, 25 all the way down, side by side along the front straight.
Yeah, another look for the race lead from Zero Zambra was really that is getting closer and closer to actually going for a serious look into the first corner, as Ronnie Smith might well be having some slight connection problems, but is still going to work their way past Phelps. So Isaac Phelps dropping back now to 5th position as Dan Amor is starting to pull away ever so slightly. A little bit of concerns for that grouping behind, and now they're starting to think, maybe we need to get our foot down. Ronnie Smith, that name rings a bell, Pat. Is that one of the drivers that took part in the Rocket Racing Star British Formula 4 competition that we did like last year, like earlier on in the year?
Yeah, I believe so. And I think Jack Badger was in there as well. So a couple of drivers on the grid, certainly getting in with the British F4 side of things. They're having a battle up towards Paddock Hill Bend. Side by side is going to be Smith is on the outside. Is he going to be able to hold on though? Phelps coming up the inside nicely, making that move. But you have to hold it down to the apex so you don't let your opponent have a run. Up towards Druids, which is what Smith is going to do. On the brakes, he's going to be on the inside line. He's going to have, and well, way later on the brakes, he's going to take that position back.
Yeah, certainly so. So nice little battle happening between the two of them, but it's not conducive to good lap times. But I will say there was a tight battle between all of those behind for about sort of 7th place, which has dropped now 3 seconds arrears of this fight. And look who's at the front of that. Jason Cooper is the one who's at the head there. Isaac Phelps having a big slide going into that final corner. That will delay them massively on the exit and could well open up a decent move here for Owen Whittle at the first corner.
Yeah, we haven't mentioned Whittle yet in this race, but that is a potential top 5 right ahead of them. And look at that battle, the big gap behind, and the huge battle that's coming behind them if they don't keep it too clean. But look at this battle in towards Paddock Hill Bend now, and that is Cooper in that white and blue cars, moves up the way of all of these drivers. Hope is there in the background, but of course a huge send from Sariski in towards top 9.
Yeah, a decent little move there into 9th place. William Hope will be the next target for Sikorsky. Williams obviously now dropped back behind, although I suspect that very brightly liveried Formula 1600 will try and find the way back through in the fairly near future. There's Jason Cooper now in 7th position in that white and blue car at the head of this little train. Obviously had some issues earlier on after starting from the front row of the grid. Frustrations abound, but of course after this, we're on 7.5 minutes left to go, so fair enough. We will be doing the spinny wheel and finding out where these drivers will be starting in the second race later on this evening. So, maybe and that's between 5th and 10th. So, if you're running in 7th, your odds are pretty good to get reversed decently.
You'd hope so, but the spinning wheel can do incredible things. And sometimes you'll be in that P7 and be like, yes, absolutely guaranteed, but no, it'll be P5 that time around. And that's all actually quite a big thing potentially for the championship, because if you can start in P1 and get a nice clean start, you're pretty much guaranteed a podium if you have some decent pace compared to the carnage that can ensue in a reverse grid race. But what we saw there with Hope, actually, did you see he was using the sequential shifter, not the paddles? I like that one. It's a bit more authentic to what this car would have.
Yeah, I don't actually know what this car would actually have. Would it be a stick sequential? Surely not.
We had one back at college back in the day, and it was manual actually. But that was obviously one that was like 20 years old. Maybe these more modern ones have sequential then.
I actually have no idea. We're very. I know obviously the Formula 4 is 5 pedals on the back of the wheels. I don't know with these though. But yeah, no, it's an interesting one. I mean, there is something about like a stick, but I've always said it before. There's something about slamming down gears as if you're, one of the Kelly brothers in V8 supercars, absolutely pumping that stick shift, getting it down those gears going into a heavy brake zone. Unfortunately, you don't really get out of that 4th gear, so you don't really get to go down like 3 or 4. But still, it is a lot of fun. At the moment, though, still Henry Moore, 6 minutes left to go in this race. Should be around 8 laps left of racing. We ride on board with Ciro Zambra. There is going to be a few opportunities. Almost going all Marc Marquez there with the leaning into the corner. Very focused.
Yes, certainly. Look at the concentration on his face, really. Actually looks quite calm, though, to be fair. And looks like he knows what he's doing. It doesn't look like he's been over-aggressive trying to catch down. So I wonder if it is what you said a few laps ago, maybe they're just trying to sort of keep themselves in a nice two-way battle, because obviously Zambra has full control of that. If he starts getting drivers up behind him, he's got to look in his mirrors at the same time. So for now, it's working out really well for them to have a battle in the final few laps. But it's a cat and mouse game now. When is he going to go for the overtake? Because he's sitting so close behind, surely Moore's going to get a little bit comfortable. At some point, Zambra's going to have to send it.
4-speed H pattern, by the way, is what we're being informed from the YouTube chat. So thank you. But there we go. Now we know. Let's see if there is going to be a move this time from Zambra. Looks to the inside. I mean, I will say, Graham Hill-Bent, I love making a move in there, but you've got to be super aggressive and very bold to do it. These are not really the cars to be sending in, because as much as they are very small, their footprint, it is quite wide. Those wheels, I mean, you can see that they stick out. It feels like they stick out a mile And the idea is, obviously when you get down the inside, you have that fear that you're absolutely going to send someone to the moon. And trust me, in this car, you absolutely can.
Yeah, there's definitely potential for a big crash in these cars. So yeah, you have to be doing it quite nicely. It's difficult though, because you do have to be aggressive. It's difficult to get the run, it's difficult to get that momentum, but maybe this is the moment for Zambra. No, once again, just getting very close as Cooper there jumps up inside the top 6. He's now trying to chase down Phelps, who's dropped off that battle for the podium positions, but actually Cooper's going back. Whittle gets back to P6.
I think so. Moore and Ronnie Smith, I believe, are closing in over the last few laps. They've certainly been setting some decent lap times. The last couple, it's closing. It's kind of one of those, it's closing in by like hundredths, not tenths, which is very typical of racing around Brands Indy. As Jason Cooper had worked his way past Whittle, and obviously recently has dropped back behind Whittle. Of course, you've still got William Hope in all of this. But this is a tight battle for 6th. I think this is as good as it's going to get for Jason Cooper in this race. After starting from the front row, that will be disappointing, but that's racing at the end of the day.
Yeah, if you can get that P6, that's a little bit more guaranteed of a reverse grid as well. So potential will be on the front row again as he gets the run up the inside of Druids. It's going to be using that momentum out of Paddock Hill Bend. He's got the inside line. Whittle's going to go down potentially 2 places here. Here comes Edwards. William Hope, I should say. Around the inside is going to beat, but not enough. But just showing you the opportunities are there if the door is open in front of him.
That was a very nice move. That was a very nice, clean, easy move there from Jason Cooper. That's kind of how you want to do it around Brands Indy. It's kind of a no-risk move. Nice and comfortable, sent it down the inside. Both of them showed each other a lot of respect. Obviously, you did see Whittle closing the door and getting it right, basically giving just about a car's worth of room. But that is what it is. Up into the first corner once again in this battle. Clap down one of the gears into 3rd. Wrestle the car, try and get it oversteering just a little bit. You kind of got to drive this thing almost a bit more like a kart. You want the rear end to be a little bit pokey in this. You do, yes, I know it's only got 116 brake horsepower, but sometimes you can guide it through a little bit by slamming that right foot down.
Yeah, you have to turn it on the rear. There's no front end as such. There isn't the grip there. Always Ettridge has had a bit of an issue coming into a Druids, dropped down to 19th place. Bit of a gap ahead actually to Edward Hope. I wonder if there's some contact in between there, but either way, Oliver going for a spin. Let's see how this goes.
We'll find out. So obviously here in Broading, quite a tight fight with McLafarqua. There's contact there and a little bit of a squeeze outwards. That's Adam Tompkins on the outside. And Ettridge going over the wheel. That's what's going to happen when it's 3 wide going into there. I'm not saying that's Ettridge's fault. I'm not saying anything, but it's when it's 3 wide in there, it's so easy to get clumsy in all of that. And here we go then for the race lead. So a 10.5 separating them, and 2 laps left to go in this one. Surely, for Zero Zambra, there has to be an attempt soon. You've got to try something to win the first race of the season.
But do you want to lead the last lap, or do you want to be overtaking on the last lap? That is what he needs to make his mind up. Surely out of Paddock Hill Bend, the run up towards Druids this time around will be the send already to the inside. Moore's having to defend, trying to look big in front, but Zambra's going to be coming for this one surely in towards Druids.
I should have absolutely gone with Zero Zambra, mostly based on the fact that it's the number 78. And it's the best number in all of sim racing because it's mine.
It's yours.
Yeah, thank you. That's why I said no bias earlier on.
That's why he's going to finish P2 though.
What are you saying?
Nothing.
What's your racing number?
57 actually, which is Ettridge, who just went up in the air. So this is going well.
Oh dear. Well, we're on board now with Zero Zambra. You can see them in the bottom of your screen. Henry Moore on the left, and Zero Zambra on the right. And here we go then, on to the final lap of the race. Henry Moore is going to be leading, but where is the opportunity, Cam? Where can Zero Zambra get through?
Surely it's got to be the braking zone in towards Druids, but this first braking point is, maybe on the send up the inside. It's going to be for Zambra, side by side between the two. Contact on the outside as well.
No, that's brilliant between the pair. There was just about room between them. That is fantastic. Zambra with the inside line coming into Druids. There is definitely contact now. Zambra sent it in deep coming into Druids, and now will take over the race lead. Henry Moore has to settle for second position as he comes down the hill towards Graham Hill. We've got a couple more corners left to tick off. Out wide, picking up one of the off tracks, the 1Xs, which I'm sure if you've saved in your locker, now's the time to use them. Side by side up towards Surtees. The outside line being taken from Henry Moore. Joining in the fight is Dana Moore as well as they head in through that final corner, putting the right foot down. It'll be a drag race up towards the line. The number 78 of Zambra just about has the advantage, but the outside line has got the power. It has got the speed. As we come towards the line, it's going to be a photo finish for the first race of the season. There is nothing between them, and as we cross the line by 12 thousandths of a second, it is Henry Moore taking the first victory of the season. It does not get closer than that, Cam.
No, absolutely does not. 1/10 covering the top three as well. Awesome battle there on the final lap. And Moore somehow on that outside line of Clearways had the momentum, had the run up towards the line despite being on the outside of that curve. Amazing defense from him. And Zambra gave everything, but just not quite enough. Awesome stuff though. Ronnie Smith finishing just behind them in P4.
Truly, honestly, incredible. Great race between them and a really good attempt there from Zero Zambra. Was patient through all the race, and that kind of showed why they didn't go for a move earlier on, didn't send one in too deep earlier on, because the side-by-side really brought the others into the mix. Dana Moore was there knocking at the door potentially for a race victory, but alas, it was our pole sitter taking the first victory of the season. Should be a lot of fun in the second race as well a bit later on, Cam. Obviously, we'll have to do that one from a little bit further down the order.
Yeah, of course. We need to see what the reverse grid number is going to be. Between 5 and 10 will be randomized, and that will be the number that obviously gets swapped for the second race.
Here we go then. What's it going to land on? Who's going to be starting this one from pole position? Looks like it might be 7. Is it going to tease us and just be 5? It is going to be 5, which does mean that Jason Cooper is actually going to miss out starting from first. So, sorry. Isaac Phelps will be starting the second race of the evening from pole position. So, very, very interesting indeed to see what Phelps can do from that spot, or whether Henry Moore's going to take another victory. Here are your provisional results of the first race of the season. Henry Moore taking the victory with Zero Zambra and Dana Moore rounding out the podium. Ronnie Smith and Isaac Phelps will be the 5 drivers rotated for the second race later on this evening after the first British Formula 4 race of the night. Jason Cooper will finish in 6th position, will start the race in 6th position after starting this one from the front row. Owen Whittle, William Hope, Crispin Williams and Adam Tompkins rounding out the top 10. Dana Moore, by the way, was the one that set the fastest lap of the race on that charge down of the top 2 on the penultimate lap of proceedings. Mac McFarquhar will finish that one in 11th position. Jordan Groves, Daniel Caulfield with Cameron Knowles, Martin Vilk with a couple of issues earlier on, was actually running very highly inside the top 5. Matthew Crisp will end up in 16th position with Oliver Ettridge behind, Aaron Menser, who we saw a couple of spins from, and Franek Sikorsky. Connor Scudel, we saw another one of those drivers that was backwards at Graham Hill Bend, which did bite a few of our drivers on the grid. Those being the final in the top 20. The final 4 runners in the race will be Stefanovski in 21st, Edward Hope in 22nd, with Brandon Loudon being the last driver on the lead lap. Jack Badger would drop 2 laps throughout the proceedings of the first race. A lot of fun, that, Cam.
Yeah, that was awesome. I think we're going to be, of course, seeing the battle like that continue, but that is certainly a really good opener, actually. A few too many crashes in the first couple of laps, but then it calmed down and we had some really, really nice battles.
Certainly so. Well, I believe we'll be joined by Henry Moore in just a second. Obviously, we've got to do a little bit of awkwardness behind the scenes, but that's fine. If I can do so, we do have Henry Moore with us, and let's have a little bit of a conversation about that race. Ty went across the line there, mate.
Yeah, got the pulse up a bit. Happy to get the win, though. I thought I was gone when I saw him go wide at the last corner on the second last lap, but he just managed to catch up with the toe, and he's obviously a good driver, so that's that, but I'm happy with the win.
Sorry, I pressed the wrong button. That's fine. Had pole position, got the race victory in the end. You'll be starting the next one from 5th place. Talk to us about how that one's gonna run, because obviously you got to start in the pack there.
Yeah, it would definitely be really chaotic. I thought I'd be further back, so I'm happy with 5th. But yeah, I'll just try and get another win, because that race was pretty much perfect.
Well, we'll let you breathe and have a little bit of a calm down between now and the second race, which will be a bit later on. But congratulations on the first victory.
Thank you.
Perfect. Well, there we go. That there was Henry Moore, our race victor in the first race of the Formula 1600 race, but of course was fought tightly to the line by Zero Zambra, who will be joined by now. Really tight one throughout that race, Zero, and of course took it down to the final lap of the race, a move at Paddock Hill Bend. Gave it a good go. Do you feel you maybe left it too late?
Yeah, I think I could have done it, but in my mind was it's a whole championship. I can't just risk it now. I was waiting onto the last lap, and I think P2 is still a very good result for the first race. I mean, I can build on it, and yeah, I'm gonna look for a good second race.
Yeah, obviously we've done the reverse grid draw, so I can tell you'll be starting from 4th place. Do you think victory's definitely up for grabs from there? You seem to definitely have the pace around Brands Indy.
Yeah, I think it's possible to have the victory in the second race. I'll just give it my best, and of course Henry's a really, really good driver. Dan is in the same team as me. I mean, it's an internal team, and he's a good friend of me as well. So probably clean racing, and that's really, really good.
Well, we'll keep our fingers crossed. Hopefully you calm yourself down. Obviously, you got the British Formula 4 race up next. Are you going to be watching that, or just sitting back and enjoying?
Yeah, take a drink and watch it. Just some water.
No worries. Thank you, Zero, and yeah, great race.
Thank you.
Perfect. Well, there we go with Zero Zambra after finishing 2nd place by a tiny margin in that one. Incredibly close. But we're building up, Cam, to the first British Formula 4 Esports race of the season. Should be a lot of fun, this one.
Yeah, absolutely. This is when obviously, the big teams, big drivers come out for the championship starting for them. It's going to be a slightly longer 20-minute race, but also the battle to basically get into that reverse grid place for the second race as well. So, yeah, let's see what happens. It's going to be good. It's going to be fast. We need to see, of course, who is going to be sort of the contenders in the championship.
Yeah, obviously these cars faster than what we've just seen with the Formula 1600s. These ones, with more downforce, with more power, although not by much. We were discussing this before we went in. They've was 160 brake horsepower in this British Formula 4 car, so it's not the most powerful, but because it's so light, Cam, these things they can be thrown around the circuit so quickly.
Yeah, these are awesome cars, to be honest. It produces some of the best racing that there is on iRacing, in my opinion. I've done quite a few sort of races with this car over many different circuits, sort of the little club circuits to the big Grand Prix circuits, and they really just seem to work. So I'm hoping that we're going to see a really sort of nice race over the course of the season. Of course, we're going to see quite a few different tracks and different styles of circuits, obviously all British, but certainly a nice one with brands top and tailing the season.
Yeah, it's kind of see that's when I started watching British Formula 4 and British touring cars and stuff. That's exactly how it was. It was Brands Indy first, Brands GP last. There's something so special about coming back to West Kingsdown at the end of the season to crown our champion. Between that, though, we visit Donington Park twice, once to the National and once to the Grand Prix, as they have done this season. The Snetterton 300, Alton Park International, Silverstone Grand Prix, and Knock Hill between that before we get to Donington Park and Brands Hatch once again for the season finale. The format for the evening on the British Formula 4 esports side of things will be going into qualifying now, and then of course we have our first 20-minute race. Then we'll have our spinny wheel once more to decide the grid for the second race of the evening for British Formula 4 esports. That will be the last race of the evening before we round things up. So you can see there on the right hand side the prize is £3,000 will go to the team's champion, 2,000 to the runner-up, and 1,500 quid to third place in the team side of things. But for the driver's point of view, for Luke McEwen last season, he'll be looking to take £1,000 by winning the championship for the second consecutive year. 750 for the runner-up position, and third will get 250. It's a great little track, this one, Cam, and I mean, that's not my opinion, that's the driver's opinion, but that's fine. But in these cars, it's so much faster.
Yeah, it really is. We're going to see a bit of a decent step up in terms of the speed. Of course, these have a lot more downforce, a lot more tyre grip coming the way. And to be honest, it should be really good and actually quite fun for these drivers. Of course, it's quite a tricky track in terms of the overtaking stuff like that we said. But in terms of the corners, especially like turn 1 down through Paddock Hill Bend, it's so fast. You've got to be really on the limit as you come over the crest as well. Should be quite good fun for these drivers.
Let's take a look then. This time on board with a British Formula 4 car, a little bit of a view around the circuit. So coming through that final corner once more, and you can already get that vibe of how much faster this car is comparatively to what we've just seen from the Formula 1600s. Really throw it in. Let's listen in. honestly a little bit of a dab of the brakes going into that first corner, down into 4th gear before heading up the hill. These ones definitely flappy paddles, down from 5th into 2nd, going into Druids. Again, you're looking for that late apex. You kind of want to stay off that curve on the inside, and then here into Graham Hill. You can just about get away with touching the right-hand side on this. There's like a little bit of a mesh there where the grass is. You can get away with touching that a bit. If you go too far onto it, it'll pull you straight alongside and potentially spin the car around into the final corner. They go through surges and clearways, and then again the understeer will take effect. This is where we potentially expect to see yet another drag race up towards the line. Exactly what we expect from the Brands Hatch Indy circuit. Fantastic, short, small, quick, exciting. To be fair, if it lives up to the hype of that Formula 1600 race, then I think we're in for a barnstorming race here to open the British Formula 4 Esports Championship.
Yeah, we certainly are. Some top level drivers. There's countless drivers here in the sort of 8K iRacing range, some sort of 8K, 7K as well. Proper top drivers around here, and of course some World Championship licensed drivers in the form of Marino Sirico as well. So yeah, awesome drivers here, and I think it's going to be a really nice championship.
Yeah, and if you want to look at high stakes iRacing World Championship drivers who could take victories and stuff, look no further than Matt Emery, by the way, who's in 15th place, most recent winner. A little bit earlier on, I think it was last week, wasn't it? But either way, I will say when it comes to results, when it comes to qualifying, of course we did have the season last year, which of course was won by Luke McCune, who is presently on the pole position. The driver that had back-to-back pole positions to end the championship, though, was Peter Berryman, who could be close to sealing a 3rd consecutive pole position, just with these two a lot further apart. That Caruana across the line, who had a tumultuous time last year, moves up into 2nd position, ended up 10th in the championship, did not have a particularly good run, mostly courtesy of a lot of retirements, definitely had the speed to compete towards the front.
Yeah, I think retirements is going to be the big factor in this. Of course, you have a couple of races every evening, so that's 16 races over the course of the championship. But you can't afford a few bad races. It's certainly going to be a big one. And some big laps coming in, though. Berryman went to pole, but it's actually been Josh Ladd who takes that back in the number 2 machine.
Yeah, Josh Ladd took the first victory of the season last year before kind of having a decent season. Didn't finish any lower than 6th last year, but of course ended up runner-up in the championship. There is Gordy Much, who I've had the joy of chatting with quite a few times this year, including around here actually. Bumped into him around Brands Hatch, and he said he was very excited for this championship. There is Peter Berryman in the Stormforce Racing Apex Racing team car. Of course, Apex Racing team having quite a few fingers in quite a few different teams across the British Formula 4 Esports Championship, but Berryman will be into the pit lane, and I do not believe it will be a 3rd consecutive pole position, one to end the season last year and one to start the season this year, as we can see Tobias Olsen now, who's a driver that I've known for well over 10 years, which makes me feel old. Thank you.
Yeah, and I was commentating on him in the e-racing league the other day. He was, which is in the same car. Yeah, it's the same car. So he was basically sort of using that as a bit of practice for this as well. And he was doing very well, actually. Got pole position that time around, led that first race. What is he going to do in that number 9 machine as he comes across the line? Can he put it up towards the top? Where is he going to sit? Oh no, P16, but 3/10 off, so not too far off, but around here, that's quite a big way.
Yeah, when you go 3/10 off and then you see yourself move all the way up the timesheets to 16th, you're like, oh, could it get any worse? Most drivers, by the way, have completed their lap times in the session. There are a few going around. Daniel Parent-Smith and Daniel Cebula will be the last 2 out on the circuit, who have a couple of laps left to go. We're looking at Cebula here, who's in 24th. Daniel Parent-Smith is 1 position ahead. Now that's a man with style. Look at those glasses. That's sick.
I love them. Can you see out of them?
No,
racing
not.
I mean, it's what it's fair. He's half a second off pole position, so maybe he's losing a couple of tenths from them.
Only wanting to be on camera for the pure bounce, clearly. I respect that. It's more about the style than it is about the speed. Drive after my own heart.
Yeah, I mean, there is a certain person that I know likes racing in a full suit as well, sometimes at the final race of the season. So the drivers do. Yeah, there's some chitch every now and again.
Oh, yeah, no, of course, yeah, no, okay, no, sorry, when you said full suit, I was like, racing suit? Does Dennis Lind do?
No, like a work suit, like a businessman suit.
No, yeah, exactly. No, and he wore that tie to perfection. That is not a good line though from Daniel Cebula through the fast. Despite having some fantastic glass on, looks pretty frustrated about the whole thing. So the jokes might be worth it, but they might be causing some frustration. First pole position and first blood of this championship does seem to be going the way of Josh Ladd, who didn't take a pole position at all last season. So certainly a bit of a move forward there from Josh Ladd, it seems.
Yeah, that's looking really good, but once again, such a close qualifying, and as ever, literally just a few hundredths between loads of these drivers. There is a few actually jumps there of a couple of tenths every now and again as you work the way down, so maybe there's a few little packs of drivers. We'll have to see how that one works out when it comes to the race conditions. Of course, over a 20-minute race, that is actually quite a long time, to be honest, in this sort of style of car as well. So definitely, yeah, as we saw in the previous race in the 1600s, there's going to be a lot of race strategy, maybe waiting to the final couple of laps to have your move, because you don't want to do it too early and risk losing some positions like we saw, for instance, Cooper. He dropped quite a way down.
But do you think around here, though, we're kind of obviously discussing it there with Zero Zambra, and he was basically saying that he did feel that he left it too late. So potentially, some of the drivers, I kind of wonder if anyone here was paying any attention to that race. I kind of get the feeling that they might have just been focusing on the final dishes of practice, making sure that they're ready for their own race rather than looking elsewhere, which is kind of very understandable in this scenario. But if they were, they might change their tact on when they go on the attack and sending one down the inside.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a tricky sort of one, because there's so little corners, it's almost quite obvious where you're going to be making your place, your move. But I think in terms of Zambra, what he had in that previous race was because he did it on that final lap, he had one opportunity. Sometimes you need to do it with 3-4 laps to go, and then try and work out sort of a better way to do it. The issue is then if you get to the front, you then have to be defending coming into the last lap. But what we did see with Moore is you can actually defend from the lead, which is quite important information for these drivers now coming out for the main championship.
Now I'm going to ask you it now before we get into the starting grid, just in case. Who do you think is going to win from this one? Do you think it's going to be Josh Ladd? Do you think Berryman's maybe going to do it? I mean, he took 4 wins last season on his way to third in the championship. Josh Ladd only had 1 win, but it was the first of the season, which could be a good omen for him.
Yeah, I always find it so difficult to predict in the first round, because you never know. Sometimes it is open setup, so maybe there's certain drivers, certain teams who figured out a little bit more with the setup, or something like that. Maybe there's been a little bit more practice, a little bit more effort put in from certain teams. That can always gain you that last tenth or so. So it is quite difficult to predict, but just looking at the consistency of McEwen last season, that's really what won in the championship. I wonder if that's what we're going to see. But of course, he's got to come from 4th place already in his first race.
I mean, you do say that, though, but I will say when it comes to the consistency of Josh Ladd, yes, it wasn't in terms of victories, but Josh Ladd's lowest result all season was 6th. Meanwhile, Luke McEwen's lowest finish was 9th. And of course, Pete Berryman actually had a retirement in the 4th race of the championship. So, the thing is, it was a tight fight throughout the season. It was mostly won courtesy of a very, very solid second half of the season from Luke McEwen. But you just never really know who's going to be taking that first victory. But of course, you'll all have to be standing by, because in 20 minutes time we'll have our first winner of the season. So let's take a look at the starting grid then. For Stormforce Racing Apex Racing Team, it will be Luke McEwen starting from pole position, with Aaron Vasquez starting from 2nd, Peter Berryman in 3rd, and Stanley Deslandis in 4th. I'm not 100% convinced by that. Maybe it is true. We'll carry on as is. But Gordy Much was in 3rd, so I'm not 100% sure on that one, Cam.
Potentially not, but maybe this is the grid. Maybe this is how it's going to look as it stands. But yeah, I mean, obviously for qualifying, it's so tight around here. Every little margin was important, but when we get to the race, how are the drivers going to sort of take those risks? Because when you get into the race, sometimes you go a couple of % down on your pushing, and therefore some drivers' pace might differ. Maybe you get a bit faster.
We were told of a penalty, but that was only for Ted Bradbury. I was getting a little bit panicked there. Here we can take a look at the first starting grid. Josh Ladd will start from pole position. Peter Berryman in 2nd, with Gordy Much starting from 3rd place on his debut in the championship. Luke McEwen in 4th, and Matt Caruana in 5th. Stanley Deslandis, of course, had a few good results, including a race win last year. We'll start this one from 6th. Moreno Sirica in 7th. Josh Poulain, driving for Freem UK, will start this one from 8th. Aaron Vasquez in 9th, and Remy Gilbert will start from 10th place in the number 52. Arvidsson will start start from 11th, and Ryan McAuliffe outside the top 10 with a few more frustrations as he had last year. Veloce Vex with Tanas Simon will start from 13th, Alexander Davidson in 14th, with Lucas Muller and the rest of the field coming through behind, including, you can see, the Aston Martin Aramco Cognizant Esports team. That'll be one that we'll definitely be keeping an eye on through the race and through the season, because it's pretty cool to have that team as a part of the ship. What is the verdict, Cam? Who's winning?
Matt Caruana from 5th.
Gordy Much from 3rd. I have to say that it is biased. 20 minutes onto the clock then, and let's see who'll take the first victory of the British Formula 4 Esports Championship. Josh Ladd starting this one from pole position, Peter Berryman alongside as we race our way down towards the first corner. It is a better launch from our champion Luke McEwen, who will get around the outside and into 3rd position as they race their way down the hill. There is a decent start from our race leader Josh Ladd, but he's instantly under pressure from Pete Berryman, who's getting around the outside as they head through Druids, and there might be the number 1 filling in the mirrors as there's contact in the background.
Yeah, there certainly is. Everyone seems to be actually getting through rather nicely. Oh, this is going to get very close, though, in towards Graham Hill, side by side, a couple of rows deep there, on towards this back straight. Everyone's trying to find some place for their car, but it's certainly difficult to do so. There's the number 52 machine. I think that's the one that went for a little bit spin around. Remy Gilbert, that is, coming through the final corner now, onto that front straight, and everyone's still scrambling for position. Yeah, great to see Gilder Esports as a part of this championship. Obviously, it's one that we'll be seeing a little bit more in the world of sim racing as times move on. Of course, something we want to keep a close eye on is the Pure Teams car. They're trying to get around the outside. That one being the number 55 of Alexander Davidson, now trying to get involved. This is a look further up the order. That's Ryan McAuliffe, who's had a decent start in this race, now moving up into 9th position, having to fend off Aaron Vasquez, now who's in 10th place. So Moreno Saric will be the next one. That's a big defensive move, though, from Ryan McAuliffe coming on the back stretch up towards Surtees. The inside line being taken by Vasquez. Big snaps of oversteer. This could be Vasquez going straight on. He's got to catch that car. He's certainly going to lose out a couple of positions. Tamas Simon comes through, as does Lucas Muller. Oh, high intensity racing there. That was a huge snap coming through Surtees. Managed to save it really nicely there, the Altis driver, and that pretty much saved his race, to be honest. That could have been a huge crash. Side by side in towards turn 1. Simon goes up into 9th place. McAuliffe drops down in towards P10 as it stands. They're still scrambling for position, going all over the road between the two. 3 wide almost in towards Druids. Yeah, they've got to be careful of that 3 wide, though. That little bit of a look down the inside from Arvidsson. You've got to be careful of doing so, committing that late. The outside driver will not know that you're 3 wide. There was a bit of a pinch there from Lucas Muller for the Dura Esports camp. This is tight racing. It is going to allow Tobias Olsen to work his way through into 13th place. So those two switching. And there was a big look down the inside there for Gilbert. And that will be our first potential retirement from the race. Isaac Arvidsson sent straight out to the barrier. Oh, yeah, that was... I feel sorry for him, to be honest. There was a huge send for Gilbert and just not enough space up the inside. It's so narrow at that part of the track. And unfortunately, contact between the two. I'm sure maybe penalties coming his way a little bit later. There's some moves up inside top 5. DeSantis, they're getting that position. Caruana dropping down into 6th place and going on the grass even. As going to be a sort of a top 7 with Poulain on the back of them pulling away. Now, I said the Apex Racing team have a fair few fingers in a couple of pies this season. Of course, the Stormforce cars that run 2nd and 3rd, and the JHR Developments cars that run in 4th and 5th, all being run by the Apex Racing team camp. You can see the leader of their faction there, if you want to classify it there, on the right-hand side. That is Peter Berryman. Josh Ladd on the left, our race leader, the runner-up in the championship 12 months ago, as he'll now try and hang on to the race lead. But that Apex Racing team pressure is starting to build heavily on his shoulders, and Deslandis is going to move out to Caruana. Oh yeah, a little bit of a gap forming with their battle, so need to be careful that these top 4 are starting to get away. But yes, certainly a nice move there from Caruana's 16 machine to get up back into that P5 where he started on the grid. It's a lot of laps around. It's about 28 laps it's going to be for the full race, so just got to keep going at it and just keep it. So sort of just high intensity. These cars are so fast. The laps come at you quick. The corners come at you quick, but you have to stay calm. You have to stay cool. And certainly Josh Ladd at the front looks pretty calm in that webcam. I was talking about Guild Esports, by the way. I've noticed that Seb Hawkins has appeared in the YouTube chat, so he's definitely keeping an eye. Obviously, he's keeping an eye on his team. The one that he is presently managing, of course, you'll know Seb Hawkins from Williams Esports, and has done a fantastic job of bringing Guild into the world of sim racing. Unfortunately, it's not going quite so well for them, nor is it going well for Tobias Olsen, who has lost the rear wing. Aaron Vasquez is one of the ones that's been into him, and it's all kind of fallen apart a little bit.
for the Swedes.
Yeah, that is a bit of a shame for them, and that contact looked like it was really early. It must be in the braking zone of Druids. Don't often see that one because generally it's a little bit later. You see a bit of a dive. Let's have a check back to see how this one happened.
Yeah, so this is Tobias Olsen coming through the foreground of shot. You've got the Dury Sports car there. I think that is Lucas Miller behind. So that's Vasquez who's on the... there's nothing that Tobias Olsen could do. And to be fair, Vasquez was just trying to save the car. He just awkwardly came back onto the circuit. We'll see on board with Tobias Olsen. See what happens to Vasquez here. So actually there was contact. That is very unfortunate and very sickening to see, unfortunately there. So it will be a double retirement to start the season for the Sim Race Sweden Esports team. That is a huge shame.
Yeah, it really is. In decent positions, but unfortunately that happens sometimes. Some other people's crashes get in your way. And as you said, Lewis, Olsen couldn't really do too much. His lad is having to defend up the inside. Berryman to the outside, in towards Paddock Hill Bend. You can use a lot more speed, a lot more momentum around the outside to get the run, get the switchback up towards Druids. Is going to be sweeping to the inside to try and defend that one in towards Druids. He's going to have that inside line. Can he keep it down to the pace? Yes, he can. Nice defence from him.
Yeah, I'm surprised that Luke McEwen's actually remaining this close, but of course we'll be in close communication with Peter Berryman, the two Stormforce ART cars running in that second and third position. This is a look backwards from Josh Ladd, and you can see that menacing number 50 really tight to the rear end. They've got a little bit to work with here, because obviously Peter Berryman, Luke McEwen and Gordy Much will all be in communication to a certain degree, and will all be kind of basically playing to let's try and make this a 1-2-3 for our little group here. But Josh Ladd knows how to get it done, knows how to win races, won the first race of the 2022 campaign, looking to do it for the second consecutive year, as here comes the move to the outside from Pete Berryman.
Certainly is McEwen up the inside, potentially of his teammate. There's all around the outside as well. Much he's going to try and do. Here comes Caruana. All 5, even 6 cars there in the background trying to have a bit of a fight. Somehow they stay in the same order. But just showing you, I think Ladd is maybe slightly slower and actually holding up this group, and he's going to get very tense with these guys in the middle of it because they're sort of trying to attack and defend at the same time. This is so difficult to keep calm, keep your nerves down as there's still half the race to go.
Yeah, there is a look at Gordy Much defending from Caruana. Once again, very tight in arrears. You can see the 6 of these cars are separated by 1 second across the line. I know someone was questioning how a commentator can't like this circuit. I mean, it's much more fun from a commentary perspective, that is for sure. It is absolutely fantastic. From a driver perspective, it could be tedious. From a racing perspective, though, it can be a lot of fun when you're in the middle of all of this. There is a look at Gordy Much as he's trying to... I think it's more defend from Caruana at the moment rather than go after his teammates in a sense, the sister team being McEwen and Berryman.
Yeah, a couple of tenths makes a huge difference here, and as you see, he's going to drop back by a car length or 2, and that could be just enough to actually start looking in your mirrors. Caruana sitting there pretty nicely in 5th place, hasn't really challenged up towards the front, as once again Ladd has to do a huge defence to the inside there to not let Berryman get down the inside. But so far, Berryman hasn't found a way past. Of course, there's a little bit less desperation at this point because there's quite a few laps to go, but you never know what is going to happen. Berryman could send it down the inside. Ladd there making a little bit of a mistake going up onto the grass, onto the gravel on the inside of Druid, so definitely he must be spending a lot of time looking in his mirror.
Yeah, obviously locked a little bit in the front right as well coming into Druids. It is so tight. Genuinely, any one of these 6 can take victory in this race, and to be fair, with any more drama, and I wouldn't even rule out the likes of Moreno Sarica, who's not exactly too far off the rear end of this, and you can see is closing in, so there might be a little bit more up for offer for the Williams Esports camp. Here comes a look to the outside from Pete Berryman. He's trying it this time into Paddock Hill. Will he go for the up and under? The answer to that question is no. Will Luke McEwen make his way through? Champion with the number 1 on his car will send it to the inside of his teammate, will potentially come through. To be fair, he just kind of has to at this point. There's nothing he can really do. Pete Berryman is sat there being like, well, do you know what, actually mate, off you go, get on with it. So McEwen will head into 2nd place, and the top 2 in the championship in 2022 will now get to go toe-to-toe once again.
Yeah, sometimes it gets a little bit more awkward, and it's actually safer for everyone to make that move. It's a little bit weird how racing works sometimes. The number 1, number 2 machine going at it, ironically as you say, for P1 and P2 on this race as well. Ladd defending to the inside once again. Here's McEwen trying to get the run up towards Paddock Hill Bend. Now he's ahead of his teammate. He's got a free run to try and go for this lead. The issue is to have to look in the background as Caruana drops down to 6th place. DeSantis gets him into turn 1.
Yeah, the JHR by 29 Esports car will make its way through, and then we'll drop down the order. It's a disaster for Dislandis, of course, had a pole position, a shock pole position last year, and a victory at Knock Hill. And unfortunately, this round has completely unfurled for the number 77, who will drop all the way back down to 22nd place. The frustration you can see on his face immediately.
And top 10 are the ones who gets points as well, so that's a huge, huge loss. And even if he makes up a few places, he's not getting any points at all. Crazy how quickly these races can swap around. Let's see, up the inside of Caruana, it's his teammate actually potentially just up ahead of him. They're going to be going side by side. Caruana onto the gravel, has to come back on the track, and contact is made in the process.
But yeah, you can potentially say Caruana moved there. And also, you can say that maybe Dislandis wasn't giving enough room. We didn't really get a look that I would like to judge from, and thankfully I'm not a race director, so we don't have to get that view, so I don't have to make that judgment, thankfully. But yeah, Caruana getting into a little bit of contact there, something that he could probably ill afford. Looking for a decent season here is Caruana after a few frustrations in 2022. Here we go then, a look overhead to see if McEwen's going to go for anything at turn 1. He'll get to the outside. We're halfway through the race. Defensive line continues to be taken from Josh Ladd. He pulls it up to the apex brilliantly, and the Williams Esports car is going to defend comfortably down the hill.
Or much all the way around the outside as well. Got to be looking 2 battles there in towards Druids. Looks like 2 ART cars he's going side by side. This could be awkward as much dives it down the inside potentially. No, it's actually in the background. Going to be a huge send there up the inside. Caruana goes wide. It's actually Sarika who's getting involved with this. We haven't spoken about him much so far this race. He's now on the back. Lane also coming around the outside of him through Surtings. That's a huge move. Around the outside is now going to be in towards that final corner, but Sarika will have the inside line and should hold on.
That's a brilliant attempt from Poulain, who obviously was representing Team Fordzilla last year. Now getting involved in the mix, will be the 7th in this train for the race victory. Ryan McAuliffe also closing in, and I kind of get the vibe will join this fight before the end of the race, dragging potentially Tamas Simon and Lucas Muller as well. There could be 10 in this train for the race lead. I've always kind of said that there was a bit of a magic number last season of how many you can have in this fight, and it was 6. If you have more than 6, and it tends to split into 2 different groups, I wonder if that will happen on this occasion, or whether that rule does not exist this season. You can see Moreno Sarika there on the left-hand side, fending off a lot of pressure from Josh Poulain.
Certainly is, and I think you're right about the number 6, because you end up having these sort of mini battles, and then obviously when you battle you slow down, so generally you lose 1 or 2 drivers off the back of the train slowly but surely over the course of the race. But what we aren't losing so far is Ladd in that lead. He's just fending so well, putting his car in the right position, and even with all the pressure behind, he seems to be making all the braking zones and not making any major mistakes as it stands. The issue for him is that this pressure is going to go on to the end of the race, and he needs to do it even up to that final corner, which could be all important in this battle. The battles also continue further down. Gilbert, one of the guys who spun around a little bit earlier. Oh, look at all these cars trying to go side by side up into Certis.
Yeah, you've got the Pure Sims car there of Davidson getting to the inside, trying to send it in, losing out to the Guild Esports car of Gilbert, who get to the inside. Obviously, there's been a bit of contact for Gilbert through his race. They're all fighting for the final position outside the point, so it's all basically just for pride in all of this. But still, Matt Emery, of course, wants to hang on to that position, as will all of those behind. They'll want it. Benedict Hitz will make his way through into 13th position, side by side behind all of that, as Abrams is going to try and get around the outside of Vasquez as we head back up into this. So Gordy Much has dropped back now behind Matt Caruana.
Caruana making some moves. Here's my pick for the win. Maybe a little bit too far, but still 7 minutes left, so he's got some time. He's slowly been working his way up. He went down to 6th, now back up into that 4th place. The issue is he's got 2 teammates up ahead, all having some issues there. Oh, that's huge damage there on the front left of Hitz, I think that is. And unfortunately, further contact there down at Graham Hill Bend.
You could potentially say that Benedict Hitz has had quite the hit in that. Badumtish and all that, but that's a big shame from all that. We'll take a look at a replay before I think something's happened up towards the front. We'll look at that in just a second, as we'll see around the outside. Hitz just kind of turns in a little bit there, to be perfectly honest, and they all kind of come together, so maybe a little bit naughty. Let's take a look as well a bit further up the order, as Berryman was involved in a potential incident in all of this. So a bit of a look to the outside there of Josh Ladd. Berryman going into the first corner. Caruana firing his way through into the rear end of Berryman and sending him round. That is naughty from Caruana.
Yeah, it certainly is. I know everything's tight, everyone's sort of checking up a little bit, but that is big gambles. Actually, we're getting some battles now for second place. This is Gordy Much on the inside. He's got the red stripe on his car, trying to get up into second place. He was down in 6th at one point, and now it's all changed up towards the front.
Yeah, this is getting very close indeed. So Josh Ladd still hanging on for the race lead. McEwen in second. Gordy Much going around the outside. Moreno Sarica involved in the mix. Matt Caruana and Josh Poulain all involved in this train. The side-by-side will take them through almost contact there between Gordy Much coming over the nose. And Moreno Sarica who'll get to the outside as they head through the final corner. Caruana with the inside run, with the inside line, and with 4th position as they head to complete yet another lap. 5.5 minutes left to go. Potentially, what, 7 laps left to go in this race. Still plenty of time for them to funnel something through. Is Poulain with an unbelievable send.
Oh my lord, up into 4th place he goes, and now it's Caruana and Sarica to battle in towards Druid. Side by side they go around the outside. That is going to be for Sarica's. They'll have the inside line. Oh, maybe just getting squeezed out a little bit there as Caruana is going to be able to hold on to that one. Maybe not though, goes a bit too wide. Up the inside goes Sarica. Oh, getting towards the end of the race now, you can see because every position is being taken. Here's McAuliffe there. He's got the inside potential of his teammate.
Yeah, there might be a couple of drivers struggling a little bit with the front left around here. You do lean on it quite a lot around the circuit, and we'll take another look at this one as we'll see how Josh Poulain was so unbelievably brave. Obviously these two, being Moreno Sarica and Matt Caruana, were so focused on each other. Josh Poulain said, yeah, you can carry on with that fight. See ya. I'm going to carry on. I'm just going to take the spot. She said, don't mind. Absolutely brilliant. 4th place Poulain would go to and all of that. Honestly, that's how they were moving the day. It looked so simple though from above. It almost looked like it was just on cruise control running through some multi-class traffic.
Absolutely beautiful there. And as you say, 4th place, he's got the opportunity for the podium. We're still battling, and somehow after all of this has changed in behind him, Josh Ladd still holding on in this race so far. McEwen in that 2nd place, as he has been for quite a few laps now, needs to try and find a way through. The issue is that they're all checking up in behind, and that's how we lost Peter Berriman in that battle a little bit later. Once again, Ladd just holds that inside line and then gets back to the race. And off the inside is going to be contact between the two as McEwen goes, and Josh Ladd has lost his rear wing.
Yeah, this is going to be big. The top two in the championship last season will be out of the points, will be out of this race potentially. That was just crazy stuff. We'll have to see that from multiple angles, but Gordy Much will take the lead from Poulain, from Sarica. Josh Ladd will drop backwards and will certainly have to come into the pit lane. He'll absolutely have a meatball. He may not know completely that the rear wing's gone until he turns in and is like, well, there's less grip on this than the last time I remember.
Oh my god, he's somehow still going though. What's he, P4? He's only dropped down 3 positions, 3.5 minutes to go. Can he get to the end of the race? Probably. Yeah, as you say, if it's meatball, he'll have to come in, but is he going to continue for now? Yes, he does, and this is going to be very, very awkward in behind him. You've got Simon and Muller trying to get past, 3 wide over along the front straight. He's going to be Simon up into 4th, Muller up into 5th, and Ladd just needs to try and hold on to the end of this race.
Wow, what drama we are seeing in this first race. Moreno Sarica then into 2nd position, looking to try and take top on for William Esports. Josh Poulain in behind after that unbelievable 3-wide pass into the first corner. It's been an exciting start to the season, the British Formula 4 Esports Championship, with high drama, including this. Let's see what happened here. So Ladd switches back to go to the inside, and I'm sure, Ladd was the one defending rather, and McEwen was the one with the send down the inside. I'm sure that McEwen will probably feel that there was a double move there from Josh Ladd, but looking from above, I'm not sure there was. I think that was just a very aggressive attempt from McEwen that went very sideways. I think it might be more on his shoulders than the other way round.
Yeah, that very opportunistic, and that's what he had to do. Of course, Ladd was coming back to the racing line, but then, yeah, potentially defended again. Of course, that's not our call. That is for the stewards. It was very tight then. Josh Ladd definitely came in a bit tighter in towards Paddock Hill Bend, so certainly one to look out for. And that'll be a big talking point, as you say, number 1 and 2 in last year's standings, and they're going to be losing a lot of points already. 25 points for a win at the normal FIA system, down to P10, 1 point for P10. So certainly some interesting battles to start the season. They'll have to come again for race 2.
Well, here we go then. Let's see. 3 laps. It'll be 3 laps to go as they cross the line. Can Gordy Much hang on? Mostly do me proud just because I picked him and to prove the commentator's curse is a load of rubbish. But we'll have to wait and see because Moreno Sarica will be desperate to get through. Josh Ladd remains out on the circuit without that rear wing with a fend from Peter Berriman, squeezing him off a little bit there, going through the first quarter. I'm sure more so scrambling for grip as Berriman finds himself back inside the points and inside the top 10, mostly courtesy of his teammate being ejected from this one after that contact at the first corner. And I'm sure Josh Ladd, the last team that he will allow to pass in all of this is the Stormforce ART car. This is like, well, you're the one that's destroyed this race for me, so we're absolutely not doing that. 2 to go at the line.
Oh, yeah, I don't think he's going to have much option, though. I don't think he's going to have the grip to be able to hold on for the final couple of laps. But certainly, as we come to 1 minute to go in this race, Gordy Much is leading the way. Sarika in second, Poulain up into third. They've got a top three breakaway before we've got Simon and Muller batting up for the P4. Lad drops down behind Berryman and Armstrong, who both get past, I'm assuming, to Paddock Hill Bend this time around, as Muller also up into P4.
Yeah, solid race. Season start here for the Dura Esports driver, working his way into fourth. And you've got to say, the joys of this race is just keeping your nose out of trouble. And that's all it's been. There'll be one final lap for Gordy Much to potentially try and hang on here and take victory for the JHR by 29 Esports. You can see there'll be a little bit of a breath, a bit of a sigh of relief as they come on to start the final lap of the race. I think Sarika might be too far behind.
He might be, but we saw an overtake in the final corner in the 1600 race just a few minutes ago. Are we going to see that once again in towards Clark and Clearways for the final time around? Sarika getting close. It's closing a couple of tenths of a second, but Much is, he looks pretty calm, looks pretty strong at the front. No mistakes now. He should have the victory.
Well, here we go then, out wide, again pushing it to the nth degree, to the absolute limit. They are going to be firing it as hard as they possibly can. It has been a dramatic opening race of the season. We've had plenty of our favourites from 2022 returning, plenty of them battling around at the front, but it is a new driver for the 2023 season for the JHR by 29 Esports team, representing the Apex Racing squad. It is Gordy Much taking the first victory of the season here at Brands Indy. Moreno Sarika coming in just under 0.3 of a second behind. Josh Poulain, after some fantastic moves, will come across in third as we wait for those drivers to come across the line. Berryman is inside the points as there's contact coming through outside of it. That was a little bit naughty. Daniel Sabula will go for a bit of a spin ahead of Harley Horton.
Yeah, awesome finish to the race and some awesome battles out there. Unfortunately, contact in some of the major positions. Berryman got spun around, huge contact between Ladd and McEwen as well towards the front. So really the top three, top four drivers involved in some huge contact. That just shows you how much these drivers are pushing. And I'm sure the stewards room will be pretty busy after this race. But an awesome, intense way to start the season.
And I'm sure there will already be a whole host of protests being put in from that one. These are all between our top two protagonists of 2022, Luke McEwen and Josh Ladd. The main talking point from that race was the contact between the pair of them. But of course, there's another race coming up this evening. Let's find out who's going to be starting this one from the reverse grid pole as we bring out the spinny wheel once more. What number is it going down? It landed on 5 for the Formula 1600. I think we're leaning towards 5 again, or maybe an 8. Oh, just about 8, which does mean I was going to say Moreno Sarika is going to start as one for pole position, but that's not even remotely true. It will actually go the way of Remy Gilbert, potentially, but of course very much provisional in all of that one, Cam, as you can see the results from the race. Gordy Much finishing victorious in all that will start the next one from 8th place. Moreno Sarika and Josh Poulain in 3rd. Lucas Muller in 4th with Tamas Simon for Veloce Vex finishing in 5th. Ryan McAuliffe, Matt Emery, and then Remy Gilbert finishing in 8th place for Guild Racing, who will start the next race from the reverse grid pole position, meaning Peter Berryman, despite that work to get back up to 9th after issues earlier, will have to start the next one from 9th as well. James Armstrong in 10th for the Freedom UK team as well. The last driver inside the top 10 and the last one scoring points. Manuel Biancalilli for the Aston Martin Aramco Cognizant Esports team will finish that one in 11th. Josh Ladd down in 12th, but without a rear wing, still managed to get across the line in that 12th spot. Alexander Davidson, Duncan Hoffland, Carl Chase, Rachel Concoli, the only driver representing Prismatic this evening, I believe. Brandon Abrams for Guild Racing, as well as you can see Alvaro Moreno and Harley Horton. A bit of an instant there at the final corner for Horton. And of course, Matt Caruana down in 20th. With a lot of other people's paint on that car. Daniel Sabula in 21st, returning into the pit lane on the final lap of the race. Luke McEwen, the series champion, ended in the barrier Paddock Hill before retirement as well from Stanley Deslanders. Ted Bradbury had to start from the rear of the field and will have to in the next race anyway. Benedict Hitz, Daniel Parent-Smith, Aaron Vasquez, Tobias Olsen, and Isaac Arvidsson. Unfortunately for the Sim Race Sweden esports teams, both finishing down the order as retirements to the list. We will be getting some interviews, of course, from our top drivers from that race, least of all will probably be Gordy Much, because after a fantastic performance from Gordy Much throughout that race, you got to say he's got to be fairly sweaty and fairly happy, Cam.
Yeah, he had such an intense race there. Really had to work hard for it as well. Of course, a couple of accidents ahead helped his final grid position, or finishing position in the end, I should say, winning the race. But certainly an awesome one indeed. And let's hear a few words from him now.
Yeah, certainly so. We'll be able to catch up with Gordy much now. Was my pick for the victory. Just want to say that, Gordy. Just throwing that one out there. I did throw out there, hashtag no bias. But congratulations, great victory. But what do you make of all that drama ahead, mate?
Yeah, I think, like, with the nature of this car and the slipstream, I think we always knew it was going to be super, super tight. It's such a small circuit as well, and you don't really get a break, so it was always going to bunch up. We knew that in practice, so I think for that race, it was all about survival, and unfortunately, out of Stan and myself, and then 2 friends ahead at Apex with Pete and Alex, I was the only one that was able to survive. But yeah, it was, I think there was some overly aggressive defending, in my opinion. But hopefully we see another tough fight for the next race, see how it goes. I think it's going to be a really interesting race with the grid all mixed up. But yeah, it's great to get a win for 29 Esports on debut.
Now, when it comes to battling throughout the race, obviously everyone's battling between everyone else. You're having a battle between quite a few mates. You were saying it there. Obviously, the Stormforce drivers, they're a part of the Apex Racing team. You're a part of. How is that? Because we did see quite a bit of side by side between you and your teammate, obviously Stanley, between Luke and Peter as well. Is that really tricky to kind of like almost like navigate without one overtaking and slowing everyone down, and also without making contact?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like, especially for turn 2. Turn 2's extremely hard because it's such a heavy braking zone, and had 3 cars ahead of me, and each one is braking earlier than the next one. And I think it was Matt that got past me at one point, just done a really good move around the outside of a hairpin, which I think shows how much we were being bunched up. But in that case, there's not really much you can do. You pick a line, you stick to it, and you hope that you've chosen the right one. But yeah, it's extremely tricky to judge. And of course, with these cars, as soon as you nip the front wing, you're in a whole lot of trouble, because you're just not going to have any front end for the rest of the race, and that's pretty much race over. So it's really, really hard to judge. But yeah, luckily I managed to judge it right in that one.
Well, I saw Pete Berryman in the background, who looked quite happy. Maybe he'll be finding himself a bit less happy when he finds out he finished in 9th place, and the reverse grid will be 8th, which is next position we'll see you starting from. Gordy, we're going to let you get away and get ready for the next race a bit later on this evening. Excellent win, mate.
Thank you very much. Catch us in the next one, maybe.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'll take almost all of the credit from that one. Cheers, Gordy.
Cheers. Bye.
Of course, a fantastic victory in the first race of the season there for Gordy Much. We'll bring in Moreno Sirica, who was the driver who finished in 2nd after catching up to that big fight for the race lead. The top 6 were all battling over each other. That was a big incident, and somehow you came through in 2nd place. Talk us through your race. That was manic.
Yeah, I mean, the start wasn't ideal, I'd say. I had to fight quite a lot on the opening laps to just stay at the back of the leading group. Then after that was just sitting there, to be honest. I didn't really want to risk any move knowing about the reverse grid. So I was happy with top 5, top 6 at the end of the race. Then obviously some incident up at the front and just moved forward because of that. And I really tried at the end to find a way to overtake Gordy, but I made just the slightest mistake on the penultimate lap going wide out of turn 3, and that pretty much compromised any of my chance there. But yep, I guess still a really good opening race of the championship.
We've worked through a grid once. You'll be starting the next race from 7th. Yes or no? Can you take a victory from there?
I mean, race 1, I guess, definitely proved that it's possible. So why not?
Well, I'll let you get ready for that one. Prepare yourself mentally. Of course, we've got a Formula 1600 race on that. Maybe you want to catch up on some tricks as how to work through in that one. Cheers, Moreno.
Yeah, cheers, guys.
And of course, Moreno Sarica there finishing in second place throughout that race. Obviously, all involved in all that was Josh Poulain, who ended up in third and the last step on the podium. Again, incredible stuff between the top three and incredible moves that were put on throughout the broadcast. I'd like to have a quick chat with Josh, mostly to talk about that move. Obviously, finished in third place in the race. Josh Poulain now joined us, and I really want to talk to a driver who is crazy enough to try a 3-wide send into the first corner. Where did that come from, mate?
Look, I mean, you got to think on your toes around this track. It's a very hard track to make some moves. I had the run on both Matt and Moreno, so I thought, well, why not give it a go? It paid off, and we went from there, really.
Now, with you being so bold with those kind of moves, is it going to be elbows out in the next race? Are you going to be trying to fight your way through again?
Not really, mate. I mean, I'm struggling for pace a little bit, so I'm kind of counting the stars, and whatever opportunity I get, I'm in. If the move's on, best believe my car's up the inside.
Well, Josh, basically that's all I wanted to hear from you, mate. I want to see some big moves still in the next race, though. So let's see what you can do. Congrats on P3, and again, an excellent move. Cheers, Josh.
Appreciate that. Cheers, guys.
Nice. And Cam, there we go. First British Formula 4 esports race done of the year. Second one coming up later. But before we get to that, we've got to deal with those Formula 1600s again.
Absolutely, and the drivers, of course, preparing themselves for that second race. Reverse grid, P5 it was. That was reverse. They've had a little bit of a break, and then they're now coming back for this second race. They need to try and find their way through this next phase of the race for the drivers who were reverse. Of course, is only top 5, so it shouldn't be too bad. But they've still potentially got some extra hard fighting on their hands. Points still on offer just for the top 10.
Yeah, just to remind you as well, Henry Moore, I'll talk you through the top 5 in that race that are going to get reversed. Of course, Moore was the one who took victory in that first race by not very much, let's put it that way, over Zero Zambra. So those were first and second. They'll be starting from 5th, from 4th. In third place will be Dan Moore, as he was in the previous race where he finished. Then Ronnie Smith, who will be starting from the front row of the grid alongside Isaac Phelps. Of course, we will be bringing you the grid in a few moments' time as we get into the race. But Henry Moore, solid effort in that race to have taken a victory earlier on. Did that one from pole position, looking to try and take a clean sweep from the races, but sounded fairly calm after that race. Cam, and obviously will surely want to go on the attack to take the double.
Yeah, definitely getting a double victory will be very, very helpful indeed, an awesome way to start the championship as well, especially with the point system that we have. If you can get some big results early on, it's going to be difficult for you to catch down. If you have a bad race and you finish in 10th, there's only 1 point. You finish first, it's 25. So yeah, it's quite a big, quite a sharp step down considering we have 20 odd drivers, 22 drivers on the grid. So yeah, definitely a good one. And I think what we're going to see potentially is a similar sort of race where we're going to see the battles happen in the final few laps. But are we going to see Lewis then wait to the final lap this time around, or are we going to see those moves coming a little bit earlier so you actually have a bit more opportunity to get past?
Well, based on what we were hearing from Zero Zambra there, I think that at least if Zambra gets the opportunity earlier on, we'll go for it. Maybe not, 1 lap from the end, maybe a couple of laps from the end, still not going for it too early, but maybe trying it a couple laps early, because they did say that he felt that it was a little too late in the day to have gone for that move, and so I kind of wonder if there is going to be a little bit more up for grabs for Zero Zambra, but we'll have to do that one from 4th place on the grid, of course. We'll have to do it on 3 other drivers, one that isn't Henry Moore. We'll take a look at the starting grid then from the second race of the Formula 1600s. Isaac Phelps will start this one from the reverse grid pole alongside Ronnie Smith, Dan Moore, Zero Zambra and Henry Moore being the drivers that have switched around in the reverse grid, of course. Jason Cooper being the one that started on the front row. We'll start this one from 6th. Owen Whittle in 7th place. William Hope in 8th with Crispin Williams, Adam Tompkins inside that top 10. The rest of them kind of filtering their way through. Some big ones to point out in this. Martin Vilk was one of those drivers that was involved in some of that feisty contact earlier on, as was Edward Hope. So we'll see what those can do. Sikorsky having a bit of a spin throughout the race. Brandon Loudon also having very, very early issues. Cam, Roger. Can Henry Moore do it on back-to-back races, or are you going for someone else?
I'm going to go for Zambra from 4th place. He looked very aggressive. He looked like he knew what he's doing, and I think he's learned from the last one.
Well, let's see as we get underway in the second race then. The firing of all cylinders down into that first corner. Zero Zambra looking to try and go for the race lead, or at least trying to take over third position straight away into that first corner. Isaac Phelps with a decent launch. Danamore up in the second position on that race start as well. It's been a bit of a poor one from Ronnie Smith, who's going to drop back even further positions as there are more moving through on the inside.
There's had Cooper there coming up into 5th place as well. Nice couple of positions jump for him in the first couple of stages. Smith once again just blinking a little bit. Hopefully he'll be okay. Side by side he's going to go in towards Stacey's, but also side by side for the race lead. Can everyone avoid contact? Whoa. No, one of the cars going way off. Hopefully they come back and rejoin nicely. Yeah, it seems like they just about have.
Whoa, there's a big flipper in the background though. I think that one might be Tompkins. Mensa is the one that we were looking at there. Oh my goodness, that is a huge moment there from McFarquhar, and unfortunately a bit of a flip in that final corner as they're all side by side in the race down to the first corner. The outside line there, that was Zero Zambra, who's actually dropped back after going off at the penultimate corner of the race. Nearly contact there as Jason Cooper was receiving a little bit of a bump draft there from Ronnie Smith. Oh my god, was that Zero Zambra?
Oh yes, the set was huge contacts happen here at Druids. 5, 6, 7 cars all getting involved. That's going to be a lot to unpick. Obviously something's happened there, and there's been a huge chain reaction happening at the second corner of the track, first proper braking zone, and unfortunately that has lost Zambra, who's my pick for the win. I don't think he's going to be doing that. 13th place he's dropped down to.
Look, that's fine. It's fine. The commentator's curse still doesn't exist because I think already much in the previous race and he won, so it doesn't exist. It's fine. But we'll take a look at some of the replays. This is how McFarquhar went for a bit of a roll. Obviously the concertina effect up ahead. Aaron Mensa was the one that was just trying to work their way through all of this. Sorry, that was actually Caulfield that was the one that was trying to work their way through. This is what happened to Zero Zambra and how they ended up on the grass. I'm assuming there was contact on the rear, just sent straight over the grass on the inside. That is a shame. There is definitely going to be damage on that car. And this all just kept going throughout the entirety of the corner. It looked like a race from your neck of the woods, Cam.
Yeah, everyone's sort of trying to find their position, rejoining potentially a bit badly, cars spinning. When you have an accident at the front there and you have 15 cars coming in behind, it's very difficult for everyone to have that extra couple of tenths reactionary. But we come back to the front, and Moore's got the lead. Phelps in that second place. They got a little bit of a breakaway, but Cooper is coming for them, and these guys want to get that race victory. Let's see how they cover this one, but it's very quickly going to turn into a three-way battle.
Yeah, so you can see our race leaders down there, Isaac Phelps and Dan Amore, battling over the race lead. Jason Cooper started this one from 6th, also trying to get himself involved in the mix. And will there be an attempt for racing? Obviously, we'll feel a little bit aggrieved after the first race, having a bit of an incident in that one, dropping down the order, having to fight their way back up, and certainly did so into that 6th place. Fought very hard to have done so. It was very unfortunate the reverse grid happened to be the smallest number. The spinny wheel works in wondrous ways as Whittle and Hope will go side by side. William Hope with the inside line, losing out. Oh, sorry, Whittle with the inside line rather, and William Hope is going to be the one to lose out.
Yes, certainly, but they got to be looking because there's opportunities for more there up ahead if they can try and catch him down. Side by side, is that Cooper going for second place? Yes, it is. Gets up the inside of Phelps in towards Paddock Hill Bend, and that is a very nice move. Can he defend to the inside up towards Druids and keep that second place? It's going to be a bit tough, but he should have the inside line there. Phelps will just have to back out of that one. So Ronnie Smith closes up, almost a four-way battle for the lead.
Yeah, certainly so. Really good move there from Jason Cooper. You can now see the one that's on the left of your screen, Dan Moore, our race leader on the right. And of course, was what we were discussing with Zero Zambra is the sorry, it's Isaac Phelps by the way on the right. Our race leader, Dan Moore, though, was is effectively teammates as well. There is no teams competition in this. Zero Zambra and Dan Moore, they are sort of teammates. They were saying they were communicating and stuff in the previous race, and so there is probably quite a lot of that going on more than it looks. It is a driver's championship and a driver's focus in this, but that doesn't mean that you can't have a little bit of assistance from some mates.
Yeah, definitely. Help is always very nicely along here. Oh, huge contact. I thought there was actually going to be further contact between the two, but they somehow continue up towards Paddock Hill Bend as the fights continue even up ahead as they're all trying to work their way in towards the higher positions, but Zambra just about manages to hold on to that one.
And we saw a little bit of a look there at Cam Knowles. Unfortunately, there's been a bit of an issue in all of that. I think William Hope being one of those, dropping down the order now to 10th, trying to get back through on Cam Knowles. And there is the look, so that will be William Hope going around the outside of Cam Knowles. Wow, you cannot miss that car. That is using the same colours as the Mazda 787B, which oh yeah, I'm pretty happy with. That's some bright green and bright orange action. Obviously, these cars are crazy different as Jason Cooper's trying to take over the race lead. Got to the outside of Danamore going through the first corner. Now trying to take it over, coming into Druid. The round the outside is not really going to work. It should be Danamore with the advantage, but Jason Cooper is here and he means business.
Yes, certainly. Phelps is in the background as well as they try and get close. Three-way battle for the lead. Cooper had that run, wasn't able to make it stick. Maybe he can learn something from that. And this time around, next time we come up towards Pelican Bend, he can try something a little bit different. There are your drivers on the screens. They try and find their way through, of course, into a nice place, into some nice slipstream. Cooper's actually got a good run there. Out to that final corner. Can he find the track position up the inside, though?
It's going to be close. There is going to be another attempt here. We have got 9 minutes and 10 seconds left to go in this race. There is still plenty of time to have done so. Not even halfway through at the moment. Danamore with the inside line. The outside line's being taken from Jason Cooper. This could be the move for the race lead. It's fantastic between the pair of them, but I think this time Cooper's going to back out and maybe go for the up and under. The outside line did not work through Paddock Hill on this time, on this occasion, but he's certainly giving it a go. He needs to find the right opportunity as Ronnie Smith sat in the background in third place. Still struggling with a couple of connection issues, but still definitely not struggling with speed at the moment as Smith is trying to make his way into this fight. There is 4 for the race lead, all of them separated by a single second, Cam.
Awesome stuff to see. The battles towards the front here. The 1600 certainly giving us a great battle, great action here out of Brands Indy. Look at the run the Cooper's got though. Got that slipstream up towards Paddock Hill Bend. Around the outside is going to have to be very tricky to do so. So sometimes you want to get the switch back in towards Druids. No, he's going to hold it all the way around the outside. A big chunk on the curve there for the 43 as Moore comes across to defend that one. So Cooper's going to have to try and find a way to the inside line. But no, can't quite do this time around, and Moore also making it down to the apex. So really nice defence there on the limit, but just about enough to hold on.
Kind of get the feeling there that Jason Cooper was going to go for, was at least going to try the up and under at Paddock Hill, but because just based on when he was turning in, right, and then just have that gap still filled because Danamore is just pulling the brakes on and basically coming to almost a stop, what feels like a stop on the apex. So fantastic stuff as we can see this battle. Edward Hope, Connor Scudell, and Daniel Caulfield, who had issues on the first lap after being involved in that incident that saw the flip of Mac Farquhar, and unfortunately Caulfield was kind of delayed in all of that. Now trying to work his way back up the order as once again Cameron move for the race lead.
Yeah, around the outside Cooper once again. He's got more of a run this time around. A bit of wheel rubbing between the two. Here comes Smith as well in that third place trying to get up the inside. Cooper can't find his way through once again, and he's going to have to now defend from Smith down towards Graham Hill Bend. It seems like the outside isn't quite enough for Cooper to hold on. He needs to find a way to the inside of Druids. Difficult to do so, of course. And then he's got the 2 green machines coming in behind. Smith and Phelps sitting there rather nicely as Cooper's got all the pressure. He's looking ahead, he's looking in his mirrors. He's really in probably the most difficult position to be out of these top 4.
But who's knocking at the door now? Who's that pesky blue car coming over clearways behind them and joining into the fight? That is, of course, race winner in the previous one. That's Henry Moore as he's trying to charge his way back up into this. With a bit of a delayed start, this one was kind of just trying to get through cleanly and try not to knock any pieces off that F1600, and certainly has done so. A little bit of a look to the inside there from Ronnie Smith. The outside line being taken from Isaac Phelps. The 4 of these not switching positions, and that gap continuing to close a little bit as Ronnie Smith defending, coming down into Graham Hill Bend. It's been fantastic between Moore and Cooper, and surely there has to be an opportunity. There is going to be something on the line. We're not seeing the same patience as what we saw from Zero Zambra in the first race.
Yeah, it looks like he wants to get to the front quickly, and to be honest, it's probably the way to do it actually, is to try and put some pressure, because sometimes what you can do is you can actually force the driver ahead of you to make the mistake, so you don't actually have to find a way past. It's kind of a free ticket to that race lead. And to be honest, Cooper's been aggressive all evening, and that is why he's given us some good action, why he's got up towards the front in the 2 races so far. Unfortunately, having that spin in the previous race. That is a bit of a run, though, up towards Druids this time around. A half defence there from Moore, but Cooper not enough to find a way to dive down the inside. So, yeah, Moore just doing what he needs to do at this moment.
Cloud coverage growing here a little bit around Brands Hatch. Cooling off a little bit. That track temperature will be dropping. You can see it's 38 degrees. I mean, the last time I was at Brands Hatch was in the middle of a heat wave, and it was pretty much that temperature in well, just generally in the air. It felt like it was actually more. It was 32. The track temperature got up to about 45. Thankfully, we're a little cooler than that at the moment, but it is still quite toasty. 38 degrees track temperature. They will be sliding quite a lot, but that cloud coverage comes over, and it will drop down quite significantly, and it does change grip, especially in cars like this that are so basically they're slow. The percentage changes quite aggressively as Jason Cooper goes around the outside. This time it might work though. There's a bit of contact there as Dana Moore came over the outside as they head through Paddock Hill, with the defensive lines being taken now from Jason Cooper, who's trying to fend off Isaac Phelps, who himself is trying to get through on Ronnie Smith and try and fend him off, but no, it's Ronnie Smith still in third.
Awesome battles. It's a 5-way battle for the lead with under 5 minutes to go in the second race of the evening here for the Formula 1600s. They've given us some great action so far. And to be honest, don't count more out of this one as well. He knows what to do to win a race around here, as we saw about an hour ago. Can he do it once more? He's got to do basically a position per lap to get that win a little bit later on in this race. Top 5 still battling once again. Hard defence to the inside for Moore. To the outside once again, it's going to have to be for Cooper. He needs to try and find a cutback. Is it actually going to be Smith there, diving to the inside, maybe trying to find a run up towards Druids?
There's just 4 minutes left to go. There's roughly 5-6 laps, however many they can squeeze in all this. More straight around the outside, and he's done it on Isaac Phelps. That is fantastic. A little bit of a lag though as he was doing it from Ronnie Smith, and that might cost his hard work. He gets back to the inside and fires his way through. 4th place for Henry Moore. That was brilliant stuff, opportunistic driving as Isaac Phelps was out on the throttle early, and now Phelps is going to try and come straight back through into the penultimate corner. They head through Surtees and up the hill back into Clearways, and the 41, the race winner in the previous race, has got himself up in a 4th, and that one is sorted now as Cooper will surely try again.
Yeah, the issue is it's splintered this top 5, so he needs to try and find a way through, but also so does Cooper to the outside now. It's going to be a Moore, the number 43, to the inside. Cooper's tried this 3-4 times. Can he finally make it work round the outside? Bit of rubbing between the two as they try and find some space on the track for each other. Up towards the braking zone now, in towards Druids. It's going to be Cooper once again round the outside. He's going to try and go for the switch track, but unfortunately Smith is there, just blocking him just a little bit as a Moore holds on for another time.
Yeah, wow, this is... I mean, this is looking like we don't know what the order's going to be across the line, let's put it that way. At the moment, Moore has basically led the majority of this race. He didn't start as one for pole position, but has certainly worked his way at the front and has made it his own. Jason Cooper's tried a lot of things to try and make his way through, as we had to work up from 6th position into that 2nd spot, and Ronnie Smith hanging on to that 3rd at the moment. Of course, you've still got Henry Moore, you've got Isaac Phelps now, who seems to be the one struggling a little bit connection-wise. There is another bit of a blip from Ronnie Smith. Let's see if Henry Moore can try something to work his way through. We'll want to get through ASAP, because with 2 minutes and 40 seconds left on the clock, there's only a handful of laps to go after the race victory.
Oh, this is getting close between the two. Once again to the outside, Cooper goes as comes across. Does a Moore to try and defend the outside. Round the outside, it's going to be for Moore though. Up into 3rd place. Can he make it stick? Will be the inside line as we come down the hill. Awesome move for your race 1 winner.
Absolutely incredible. That is so good. That is a textbook move around Brands Hatch. We've seen quite a few, and Moore is just picking them off one at a time, looking for back-to-back victories. Ronnie Smith once again with a look down the inside, coming into the penultimate corner, has to settle for 4th position. Henry Moore then up into 3rd, and Jason Cooper, the driver who started the previous race from 2nd place, was qualified on the front row of the grid, dropped backwards of course, but the driver who was fighting with in all of that was of course Henry Moore. Jason Cooper will try and get to the outside. He knows that if he wants chances of winning this race, he has to get through basically now, because Moore will surely be knocking at the door fairly soon. The up and under up towards Druids, with the defensive lines being taken from Dana Moore, and it's done beautifully.
Oh, but also here comes Moore to try and get that position from Cooper, as he's got just a couple of laps to go in this race, and Moore's doing everything he needs to do to hold on. The issue is he needs to do it just a couple more times. Cooper's getting close once again, but you cannot count out Henry Moore in that 3rd place in the all-blue car. He is coming for this, but it's the blue and white car of Cooper. He's been in that 2nd place for about 10-15 laps now, and is really starting to put the pressure on. As we come to a minute to go on this lap, so 2 laps to go it will be in this final race of the evening for these guys.
He may have been there for most of the race, but there is still 2 more left to go. 2 more laps for him to progress forward in all of this. The slipstream's worked in effect in favour of Henry Moore, who will get to the outside of Jason Cooper. Will send it in and trying to take over 2nd position, but surely there'll be a lunge coming down to Druids. But the defensive line being taken by the rest of them is going to allow Henry Moore to fire one around the outside. There's almost contact between the pair, and there's been brilliant racing in the previous one, and there's brilliant in this one between Cooper and Moore. The inside line now into Graham Hill Bend, straight around the outside. Jason Cooper's going to go as he tries to hang on to 2nd place.
Awesome racing between the two. Who is going to back out in towards Surtees? Around the outside is going to have to be for Henry Moore. Can he finally make this work, as Cooper has the inside line? And Moore is going to be loving this. He's got the lead as we come on to the final lap. But in the background, as you say, Smith has gone. He's dropped out of this top 5 battle.
So final lap of the race then, and Ronnie Smith is no longer partaking as a participant for the race victory. He'll have to settle for 5th in all of this, but it's still some healthy points. Dana Moore, with all the fighting behind, has checked out a little bit as Henry Moore going back to the inside. The up and under not going to work there as Jason Cooper's going to take the defensive line. We've seen plenty of overtakes around the outside of Druids from Henry Moore. This occasion, though, will be slightly harder, Cam.
Certainly will. This is going to be really the final opportunity to get the run, get the momentum out onto this back straight. Moore's going to win the race, but who is going to be second? Just one final braking zone to go.
Here we go then. Who's going to come out in second place? The race victory does look like it's secured for Dana Moore, but second place is up for grabs. We know that that Henry Moore made a move basically back for the race lead around the outside of the final corner. This occasion it's not going to work, and the second race of the season for the F1600 is going to go to Dana Moore, and you can see what that means. Celebratory times there, and a victory for the number 43. Jason Cooper able to secure second place in all of that, with Henry Moore, Isaac Phelps and Ronnie Smith. Let's just say big congratulations to all 5 of those who put on quite the battle for a race victory here in the second race of the evening.
Awesome racing. That was a lot cleaner this time around than that first race, and amazing stuff to see some huge moves, especially Moore almost did it twice around the outside of Druids. Don't often see that being completed so cleanly, but he almost did it once though to get up onto the podium, and that overall is going to be a really, really good points tally for Moore coming out of Brands Indy. Of course, 7 rounds still to go, but that is a really healthy way to start the championship.
Well, mate, it's going to be very hard to say and very confusing as well. But Dana Moore and Henry Moore both finished first in one race and third in the other. So, you know, they'll be pretty tight when it comes to points at the top end. But, of course, that's only one of the rounds completed as we take a look at our results. Dana Moore taking the victory after a fantastic fight with Jason Cooper, defended perfectly. Henry Moore behind in third. Isaac Phelps, Ronnie Smith in fifth. Owen Whittle, Jordan Groves, Crispin Williamson and William Hope, of course, with Cameron Knowles rounding out the top 10 of the order, but of course with 14 other drivers left to go. Zero Zambra, unfortunately, obviously finished second in the previous race and only 11th in this after earlier issues. Oliver Ettridge, Jack Badger, Aaron Mensah after a lot of early issues with Edward Hope, Fredrik Sikorsky, Daniel Caulfield, and then Brandon Loudon, Connor Scoodle and Martin Vilk in 20th. And unfortunately, a retirement from all of that. Matthew Crisp, Aldrich Stepanovsky, Adam Tompkins and Matt Farker, who was upside down, Cam, through that race.
Oh, yeah, that was obviously quite a few laps ago now. But yes, he was absolutely sent flying back towards the start of the race. Just showing you how easy it is to flip these cars around. And to be honest, I'm actually surprised we didn't see a couple more than that with these literally open wheels that we have on these cars. They're really sticking out wide of the bodywork. It's so easy to sort of collect each other. We saw a lot of wheel rubbing, especially coming out of Paddock Hill Bend. So awesome battles there. And to be honest, I can't wait to see what this championship is going to do. I wasn't quite sure how it was going to work, how it was going to fit in compared to sort of the main championship. But I think it's a really good sort of undercard to it.
But of course, the big thing they're all kind of fighting for, isn't it? It's to get into the British Formula 4 Esports Championship. That's what the main prize is here at the moment. And of course, Henry Moore after a victory in the previous race and a Dana Moore in this one. Those are the two that are looking fairly strong. We'll catch up with Dan Moore now. He'll be with us in the comedy booth after a fantastic victory. I mean, talk us through your race. Excellent defence there from Jason Cooper, and the final couple of laps looked fairly simple, really.
Well, I mean, so at the start of the race, we had a good start, got past Ronnie straight off the start, and then Isaac Phelps was in the lead, got through on him, was in the lead, and Jason, he was, I think, P4 at the time, but he had really good pace, and I wasn't quite on there, you know, higher track temps. I was just still getting used to it with the cold tyre. I was just making sure I was completely safe, didn't want to make any mistakes. So I was kind of a little bit off the pace. So Jason, he completely drove up to us, to be honest. He was really fast. And then once he caught up, he got through the pack to second. And I kind of saw in what he was driving, you know, he clearly wanted to be in the lead and lead from the front, but I wasn't going to let that happen. I defended for pretty much the rest of the race and defended for a very, very long time and somehow kept on to the lead.
Well, you got third in the previous race and then obviously taking the victory here. But it is a long season, isn't it? You know, you've got 7 more rounds, so 14 more races. How are you going to play the season? Are you just taking it one round at a time, or are there certain ones that you're really targeting to do well at? Like, how's this all going to work for you?
I think it's all got to be just one big championship kind of thing. You know, it can't really be, you know, I have to win race 2 this round. It just has to be nothing below a P10 kind of situation. You have to just keep those consistent points and be up there in the championship rather than be up there in the race results some rounds and be down there other rounds.
Well, we'll let you get off and have a lovely evening after a fantastic victory. Cheers, Dan.
Thank you very much.
Of course, yes, a very well-deserved victory in all of that one. Hopefully we're joined by Jason Cooper because we've got to talk about the disappointments of the first race, of course, finishing in 6th place and having the reverse grid B5, but really showing that reverse grid doesn't mean nothing. Jason, talk to us about that one. You worked your way up, nearly got that victory, just couldn't quite find your way past Anna Moore and all that.
No, Dan drove really well in that race. He knew exactly where to place the car. Unfortunately, I had a queue of cars behind me ready to pounce if I tried anything too drastic. So kept having to back out of things to protect my second place. But second after that is still a good result. Obviously, I'm a bit annoyed in the first race. Got caught out with the car in front braking a little bit earlier than I expected, and I hit the brakes harder and ended up locking up and going straight on the gravel. So that wasn't an ideal start to the evening.
How is that kind of frustrating? Was the break between the first and second race enough for you to kind of calm down and get back into the rhythm with it, or how does that all work?
Oh, I'd rather go straight into the second race. I don't like sitting around thinking about it too much. I just rather get on with it.
Well, hopefully, there will be less frustration next time, Jason. Again, excellent drives. Getting onto the podium this time, a super effort.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thanks everyone. Yeah, obviously turned up racing tonight. There's some excellent racing that I witnessed anyway. So yeah, cheers.
There really was. Cheers, Jason. Obviously finishing second in this one, 6th in the first race of the evening. Hopefully we'll grab a little bit with Henry Moore as well, who obviously we caught up with after the previous race after taking that victory, back onto the podium to make it 2 podiums in the evening. Henry Moore, how did that one go for you? You dropped a little bit off at the race stop, was able to work your way back up and challenge, at least maybe even for the race lead.
Yeah, not a bad race. Start was decent. I had to go at P4. Then just got stuck on a curb pretty much and lost all traction and dropped like 2 seconds back. So had a lot of work to do. Caught back up, couldn't quite get the win, but P3's P3, I guess.
How hard are these races when you're basically starting in the mid-pack?
I mean, the car's hard enough to drive. Never mind when you've got loads of people driving around you.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a tall order going into that one. But obviously, taking the victory in the first one, do you count yourself really as the favourite now, or are you just going to treat it round by round?
No, I don't treat myself as the favourite. Just going to go, as you said, round by round, trying to win as much as I can, get podiums, stay consistent for the championship, and I'll see what I can do.
Well, Henry, we'll let you breathe for one evening. Obviously, we've got one more race to deal with, but you are certainly off the hook.
Thanks, guys.
There we go. Another podium, Cam, for Henry Moore after taking that victory earlier on. It was a solid effort, but we've had some great racing this evening, that's for sure.
Yeah, we certainly have. And to be honest, I can't wait to see what's going to happen in his final race as well. Of course, reverse grid for the F4s as well coming our way. And Brands Indy's actually surprised me a little bit with just how good the racing was around here. Obviously, we know it's a tight track. It's only 4 corners, really, in terms of the layout. So it's definitely a more difficult one. But the guys have been going for absolutely every position. And especially for all 3 leads, for three races we've had so far, we've seen some proper top level battles.
Now the reverse grid here, though, obviously the reverse grid that we saw in the Formula 1600 was 5. That was the reverse grid position. This one's 8, which is a third of the field, and it's a tough grid. What do you think we're going to see in this? Do you think we're going to see carnage? We saw a bit of carnage in the F1600s.
Yeah, so I think what we saw in the first race might actually replicate itself. So Josh Ladd was at the front, but I think he was actually slightly slower, even just by a couple of tenths, but slightly slower. And what I did was it bunched everyone up behind. And when we get this reversed 8, we're going to see, of course, drivers who maybe are a couple of tenths off and now on that front row, and again they're going to be holding everyone up, and what it does is it bunches everyone up. It makes the the action, just the intensity increasing all the time, because if you're the 3rd, 4th car on the train, you're coming in full speed for the guys that are checking up, and all of a sudden you can get a run. And we can see what we have between the 2 ART boys, where you sort of have to overtake for the sake of not being overtaken again by the car behind. It gets very, very tricky.
Obviously, Gordy Much will have to, if he's going to take back-to-back victories, he'll have to do that one from that 8th position, which will not be easy. To talk a little bit of last season, because obviously we had some similar reverse grid in that as well. no driver took victories from both races in a given round. There were a couple of took back-to-back victories, but that was second race of an evening and then first race of the next evening. Do we think that can change here, or do we think the strength of field's too high, really, and working your way through at someone like Brands is too difficult?
Well, considering in the previous race we saw the top four at the various occasions all get involved in accidents, that's really what let Goody Much get up towards the victory. Anything is possible in that regard, and considering how accidents are so close around the corner here, I wouldn't be surprised, to be honest, if we saw him jumping up and really, because at one point he was 6th in that race and he won. So from 8th, there's only 2 positions more. He might actually be able to do it.
And it's one of those scenarios when it comes to all like the contact and such through the race, like what we saw there with McEwen, with Josh Ladd. I'd rather be lucky than good, and that is a scenario where it's kind of like, yeah, maybe Gordy Much did get a bit lucky and all that, but again, not that, well, I mean, to be fair, it might not be good. That's up to you to decide. But I'd rather be lucky in that scenario. You're kind of picking your way through, and it just so happened that you were gifted the spot. You still have to do the work, though, of course. Penny, for your thoughts on how McEwen and Ladd are feeling after that incident. I didn't see if there was any repercussions from that. I'm sure that will be dealt with post race.
Yeah. It is a tricky one. Ladd was being hard on his defence. McEwen sent it to the inside of Paddock Hill Bend. Very late move and very hard move as well. He was coming aggressively across the track at quite a hard angle. So, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we do potentially see penalties from that, purely because Ladd also did sort of move a second time. But look, it's hard racing. They were going for the victory. It's a tricky track to overtake. And at the end of the day, things like that can happen very, very quickly.
Certainly so, and I'm sure we're in for an exciting one. If anyone joined us last year for the British Formula 4 Esports Championship, you know this championship does just get crazy, and it is a lot of fun. It is a terrific amount of fun, and like I say, I really enjoyed the bits that I did last season. Obviously, Connery Maddock, who's now behind the scenes, bringing us the broadcast, was on. Paul Smith also joined, as did Will Vincent for the season finale. But now it's me and you stealing the spotlight to guide you through the season. 2 minutes before we get into the final race of the evening. I also hope everyone's enjoyed the support package, because to be honest, like I say, it's different from last year, but it has been rather exciting.
Yeah, well, it has. It's an extra 30 minutes of racing action for your viewership. But that was also exciting racing action, and another prize to be fought for, with obviously the prize of the sport category being an entry into this race that you're seeing right now for the 2024 season. So yeah, great addition, I think, to the roster, and that's going to be following us throughout the season, throughout the full 8-round season as well. So certainly going to be a nice one to see that from now until November, when we come back to Brands to do the GP Sig.
Yeah, and like this is the kind of thing here to kind of discuss with this as to why would you want to win a seat in an esports championship? That's crazy. But when you're talking about this championship, it is a premier championship. It is on the highest level. To take part in this, you have to be a very solid driver, especially if you want to get inside those points and you want to be victorious. Every one of these drivers are very, very solid. Some of the best in sim racing, realistically, at the front of the field, and that's what makes this championship so exciting, and why it is a little bit sought after to get into for a lot of these drivers.
Yes, it certainly is. And I'm just looking at the times in this warm-up session. The top, what are we saying, about top 14, within a couple of tenths of the top time, which is currently Josh Ladd, with McEwen in second place and Berryman in third in this warm-up session on the screen as it stands. So the top three are certainly coming out, even by a few thousandths of a second. They always seem to get back to the front. So I think we're going to see a very good season of racing. It's going to be very competitive between the two. The issue is the likes of Ladd, McEwen, and even Berryman, they got some points now to come back from. It's only been one race, so a little bit early to talk about the championship. But if they want to be a contender, the consistency is the biggest factor. And looking at the championship last year, and the likes of McEwen, he only finished outside the top 6 once. And Ladd in second place, he never finished outside the top 6. So it's that consistency that they missed already in that first race that they're going to need to overcome.
Well, we're building up then to the final race of the evening. It'll be the last time we see Brands Hatch until the end of the season. Our starting grid, we'll see Remy Gilbert and Matt Emery starting on the front row of the grid, with Ryan McAuliffe and Thomas Simon in 3rd and 4th. Lucas Müller in 5th with Josh Poulain after that fantastic move, starting this one from 6th. Finished on the podium in the previous race with Reino Sirica ahead of him, and Gordy Much taking that victory in the first round of the season. Pete Berryman disappointed, but finishing in 9th. James Armstrong the last inside the points, with Manuel Biancalil of the Aston Martin Aramco Cognizant Esports team starting there. We can see the rest of them rolling their way through, the likes of Alexander Davison, Duncan Hoffman, some of the drivers that we weren't really seeing too much of throughout the running. And then the big drama, obviously Josh Ladd, Luke McEwen down in 22nd position, where he's going to have to start in all this. Ted Bradbury having to start from the rear of the field after issues on media day. The Sim Race Sweden Esports team starting from the rear of the field after the pair of them retired, but we know those drivers are fast enough to work their way through into the points. That's if they avoid the drama cam. We're about to go into the race then, the final one of the evening, and let's see who's going to take victory. We are underway. Remy Gilbert for Guild Esports has a decent start, and unfortunately it's not a particularly good one from Matt Emery, as Ryan McAuliffe is going to try and get around the outside, heading down the hill into the first corner as they rise their way up towards Druids. It was fairly clean inside the top 10. It looks tidy as well behind, and Remy Gilbert has absolutely gone half a second of a race lead as the two Veloce cars either side of a Ryan McAuliffe sandwich.
Absolutely, and all in the background there's a car going off there as they try and work their way. It might actually be Much going off the track there, coming through Graham Hill Bend. Side by side between the two is going. This is number 33 of Poulain, tries to get the up and under in towards the final corner. That's a little bit wide though from Lucas Müller, who had a decent run in the first couple of corners, but unfortunately he is starting to drop back. Top 4 getaway though as he finished the first lap.
Yep, certainly so. They have pulled a decent margin as Lucas Müller is feeling that pressure from Josh Poulain, who's done a few moves in this race. So is Matt Emery, getting to the inside and trying to send one as he's trying to take over the race victory. And let's see if Remy Gilbert will be able to hang on. Guild Esports to the outside, Veloce to the inside, sending it in the number 34. Matt Emery trying to find his way through, but the inside line will take it from Gilbert on the run down towards Graham Hill Bend, and just wait for Ryan McAuliffe to join into the mix.
Oh, awesome battling already on these first couple laps. They're absolutely going for it side by side between the two, up in towards 30s. Of course, got to look out for Simon in the background as McAuliffe round the outside. It's going to be off the final corner. Is he going to be able to make that stick? It's certainly the long way around, a bit off camber as well. Has got to look at Simon getting that run up towards the first corner, where this is really one of the best overtake opportunities. Gilbert's actually got a bit of a run, a bit of an opening up towards the front. Around the outside, McAuliffe still going to hold it as the two Veloces try and work their way through up in towards the top 3.
Yeah, I mean, I will say with Ryan McAuliffe, you can see that on the left side of those pictures at the bottom of your screen, as there was a big send there from Josh Poulain. Once again, I mean, he was saying, oh, no, I'm not really going to get my elbows out too much. Ha, lol. Boom, sends it up into 4th position. One thing I was going to say, though, Ryan McAuliffe, I was so shocked last season he's one of the fastest drivers in these cars on this platform. And didn't get a podium throughout the entire season, let alone a victory, as Moreno Sirica straight down the inside of Lucas Müller to take over 6th position. Fantastic move.
Oh, that was tasty up the inside there, but Muller's actually having a bit of a run back up towards Paddock Hill Bend. They try and drives go all over the track to try and give each other slipstream or not. In towards Paddock Hill Bend, Müller on the inside, Sirica on the outside. Müller is trying to defend this position though. He almost lost in towards the final corner there, and they're still going side by side for about a kilometre now as they continue to battle for this position. Müller still on that inside line, should have it if he can just get the run in towards Graham Hill Bend now. Still up the inside goes Sirica, whole lap of battling. Sirica comes out on top.
And Sirica was not having it. Absolutely sent it into Graham Hill Bend and has opened the door for Peter Berryman to come through as well. Straight through on Lucas Müller, who's gone out wide. There's one, there's two through as well, as potentially Armstrong was working his way past all that. Gordy Much back involved in it because he had a terrible start of this race, dropping to 11th position. Now back up to 10th. Our focus here in that blue and green car, the Freem UK, that is Armstrong, who's now in 8th position, who did bits of last season for JHR Development. There is a big send back to the inside from Gordy Much, the race winner and champion leader, as he works his way through into 9th.
Oh my God, this is getting very intense already in the opening quarter of this race. Müller, he's definitely one of the faster drivers out there, but he's just going backwards and backwards in this race so far. Potentially outside the top 10, just manages to hold on from Davidson there in that number 55 machine. He's trying to get himself that final points position. Remember, points, the normal 25 down to 1 point for P10 in this championship. So that's what they're all aiming to get for. Up the inside almost for Davidson there, but no, this not time. It's actually Josh Ladd they're on board with, of course, leading the race for so long in race 1, but ended up in the fence.
Yeah, second in the championship last season, 12th in the race, no points to his name, nil points in the previous race. Of course, won the opening race of 2022, and that was the last time we saw him in victory lane in the British Formula 4 Esports Championship. I don't think it's going to happen in this race unless he gets very bold, but would certainly like to get himself onto the points scoring list throughout this race as Caruana works his way into 13th position. He'll be quite glad that he won't be seeing Luke McEwen in this race. At least I don't believe so, because McEwen's not really made any progress. 20th position at the moment, presently running. It's been a big shame and a terrible start to the 2022 champions' new campaign.
Yeah, he's going to have to try and bring back the points when we get to Donington in a couple of weeks' time. It's definitely going to be an interesting one for him to sort of overcome that deficit already that he's had in these first couple of races so far. Because even if he gets a few positions more, he's not going to be getting points. Berryman batting once again in towards turn number 1. Sarika around the outside is going to be up in towards 6th place. Who's going to come out on top in this one? Side by side in towards Druids as the battles continue up ahead as well. But Berryman, is he going to have to run down the hill in towards Graham Hill Bend? Yes, he does. 6th place that is going to be for him. But Poulain and McAuliffe are batting for P3 up ahead too.
Yeah, Poulain's worked his way through into that third spot again after the brilliant move in the previous race. Finished in third in the previous race, so looking for 2 podiums from the evening, maybe even some more. Matt Emery though has got through into the race lead at the moment. Obviously, I said he took a victory last week at the Grand Prix Turn Racing iRacing series, so those in the Dalaras, and now looking for another one in a big championship. This one in the British Formula 4 Esports Championship. He gets his Veloce up to the front of the field. Guild Esports maybe potentially getting denied all this, but what Josh Poulain in this. We know he can make a 3-wide move. We'll just try and fend off though Ryan McAuliffe in this scenario, as out wide Emery's going to go after defending from Gilbert, as this is going to be a big one for Poulain to the outside at Graham Hill.
Oh, just millimetres separating these drives. Huge swap on there for Simon. He's going to be having a bit of a battle now with Berryman in towards 30. Side by side they go, but I think Berryman's just going to have to back out of that one. That opens the door once again for Sarika to come up the inside. The battles continue. You make one small mistake, and unfortunately you're going to be losing 8 positions. Sarika now up the inside is going to be off the inside line for the first corner here. Paddock Hill Bend as he tries to find this position. They've been battling for a couple of laps now. It looks like he might just be able to hold on to that one, and he does for P6. And you've got to be so careful in these positions. You can easily gain or lose, and if you're fighting for a championship, you've got to be keeping your results consistent.
Look, I hate Brands Indy. I really do. I honestly do. But the racing this evening is convincing me, ladies and gents. This is absolutely epic. Has been in the previous 3 races, is so in this one as well. Ryan McAuliffe, our focus here. 4th position. Didn't have a podium in 2022. Wants to pick up one this evening to start the season, but has to get through one of the most imaginative drivers as Moreno Sarika and Tanis Simon switch positions. And Moreno Sarika is dropping back down the order. The driver that finished 2nd in the previous race. Some issues at the final corner.
Batting for 6th, he's now going to drop outside. Is that even outside of top 13, top 14? And that is horrible there for the Williams drivers. The other Aramco car coming around the outside of him, not quite, unfortunately, there. Simon has gone down as well. Much and Muller have got past him for P6, P7. The battle continues side by side, way up ahead there, as they try and still find their way into a single file formation. That's not going to be working. Side by side between many of these drivers in the mid part of this track so far, and the positions are ever changing. Got to keep on top of it. Got to be taking up those opportunities when you can. Simon is fighting in the top 4, now down to P8.
Yeah, you've got Armstrong that was trying to get past Tamas Simon in all of that, but also there was a battle between Ladd and Davidson. Ladd 1 position away from scoring his first points of the season and getting this campaign fully underway. They had their way down towards the first corner. I think there was a look ahead in all of that, but no move. Don't worry, we're not missing anything towards the front, ladies and gents. We're keeping our eye on this battle just at the final points paying positions. The defensive line's being taken from Tamas Simon as James Armstrong's getting to the outside. Poulain's actually made a move on Gilbert and has got through as they come down into Graham Hill Bend, has made that one stick at Druids, and now moves up into 2nd, has half a second to close down in 12 minutes. I think that will be absolutely no problem.
Oh, definitely. He's looking fast and he's looking feisty today. Up in 2nd place so far as Gilbert, your pole driver for this race, the reverse grid pole, drops back to P3. Side by side in the background though between McAuliffe and Berryman. Berryman gets the inside line up towards Paddock Hill Bend. This would be a great recovery from him, almost touching the 2 as they come in towards the entry now, in towards the braking zone. And it's a huge side by side movement there for Berryman as they go so close, racing wheel to wheel in towards the braking zone and Druids. And Berryman will have the inside line. McAuliffe around the outside. The number 71 machine can't quite hold it, and Berryman has to find his way through and get up into that 4th place.
Clarify in this group, by the way, Josh Poulain has 4 races in the British Formula 4 Esports Championship last year. It was 6th, followed by 3 retirements. presently has a third place and is looking at the back potentially of a victory. The driver who we were looking at there, Peter Berryman, has 4 of something else, and it's 4 victories in the championship. Did the entirety of the campaign last year, finishing in 3rd, and now looking to add potentially a 5th victory to that resume and take him to number 1 on all-time winners in the British Formula 4 Esports Championship. Of course, we've only been doing it for a little while, so fair enough in all of that one. But you got to say, Boulet's having a right turnaround in 2023 as we ride on board with Remy Gilbert for Guild Racing. I've said before, it's fantastic to see another big esports organisation taking on the world of sim racing. Guild was the newest one to have joined the ranks of some of the biggest teams, and esports sort of moved into the world of sim racing. So it's great to see. They would quite like to start off with top honours. They've got to get past Poulain and Matt Emery, who showed himself in open wheelers to be pretty strong.
Yes, certainly is. This battling has been absolutely incredible, and I'm actually a little bit surprised at just the intensity of it. And how everyone is just pushing to the absolute limit. They're going millimetres onto the grass every single lap, and of course going hard onto the brakes as well. As Gilbert, they're getting very close to Poulain, as they've of course close up to Emery, and this battle for the lead is certainly not over. They've got all sorts of opportunities as well. Halfway through the race, 10 minutes to go now. So a third of the way through the race, I should say. 10 minutes to go now, as they still have plenty of laps to try and get this lead. The issue for them is you've got to look out. Berryman is coming in very fast there in 4th place.
Yeah, and I know Berryman can get his elbows out. He'll be pretty feisty here. He looked pretty happy in the background when we were interviewing Gordy Much at the Apex Racing facility. When he's in the race, though, he's a serious player. He's a contender. He wants to take victories. He wants to go for the win of the championship. Look at how serious he is there. You would not want to irritate that man. Trust me, I met him. It's very scary. But you've met him as well. It's all very, it's horrifying. But currently running in that 4th spot. Not quite on the podium yet, but it's certainly looking a lot better than in the previous race. Obviously, he had contact with, was it Matt Caruana?
Yes, it was. Contact on the exit of Paddock Hill Bend. He obviously had to check up a little bit for his teammate McEwen ahead, and Caruana just coming in. It was just millimetres, because there's a few centimetres in between them. Berryman just had to slow down. Caruana comes in with like 2k's extra speed, and that's all it was, unfortunately. So fine are the margins in this championship. As it stands, Berryman in that 4th place, but he's only half a second off the lead with 3 cars in between him and that position. So crazy scenes here at Brands Indy. Up the inside potentially for Gilbert towards Druids, but not quite enough. It's quite funny how early they sort of come over towards the apex as they try and defend their line in towards Druids.
I've always said this about racing Brands Indy, is that you, when you're in the race, unless you're by yourself, you are not taking an optimal line anywhere around here, particularly that run from Paddock Hill to Druids, because you know Druids is the best overtaking opportunity, and you always take this really defensive line. You kind of think, is that a sim racing thing? No, you see it in British Touring guys, you see it in British Formula 4 in the real life, you see it all over the place. Into turn 2, Paddock Hill, you go through Paddock Hill and you instantly pull it over to the right hand side because you're always taking that defensive line up towards Druids. It's just the line, as that is an unbelievable send from Josh Poulain once again, and the up and under from Remy Gilbert as he comes through and takes both of them for the price of one, and so does Berryman, straight through on Matt Emery and potentially through here on Josh Poulain. He was so aggressive into Paddock Hill on this occasion, and the Stormforce ART car has to settle for 3rd in all of that, but wow, was that aggressive.
I thought we were going to see a repeat of what we saw with McEwen and Ladd, but no contact this time around, but huge change, as you say. Gilbert taking the lead. He's got half a second gap as well, as all these drivers coming in behind. McAuliffe's got involved, Gordy Much has got involved in this battle as well, and I think even Lucas Muller just about on the background. He's got 7.5 minutes to go. Poulain and Berryman now battling for that 2nd place. What a send this is going to be on the replay.
Yeah, it's more, just watch that car 3rd in shot. We're right on board with Remy Gilbert and all of this. Just watch this. So you'll see the up and under. This is exactly what McEwen was trying in the previous race on Josh Ladd. Straight on the inside. Of course, the door was left open. Matt Emery read that, and Remy Gilbert's like, oh, just thanks, lads. I'll just take the race in line. Bye. Up into the race lead he goes and checks out by half a second as this battle happens in behind. There has been an enormous crash, though, with Josh Ladd, Manuel Biancalilla and all of that. I think Ryan McAuliffe is also involved. This has all unfurled very, very quickly.
Oh, Ladd goes around, loses his rear wing for the 2nd race in a row. And yeah, you're right, the 71 machine McAuliffe, who's of course fighting for that top 5, got involved. Let's see what's happened coming up towards Druids for this time around. Ooh. Loads of cars all in there. Who's going to make the mistake? Bit of contact, and it's already ahead. One of the Veloce cars was involved in there as well.
I think it was Ryan McAuliffe that started. I think Ryan McAuliffe was looking down the inside coming into Druids, and that's what basically began this enormous incident. So we'll look on the board with McAuliffe here. So we've got Matt Emery ahead. The up and under goes, centred in kind of being chopped off a little bit there from Matt Emery, and then it all just happened. Gordy Much had nowhere to go and all of that. Just crazy. That was a wild attempt there from Ryan McAuliffe, and remember when I said that he hadn't got any podiums to his name? That's partially why. Getting aggressive, getting elbows out, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Maybe you could say that it was a little bit of a pinch there from Matt Emery. Maybe you could say it was aggressive from Ryan McAuliffe. All it has done, though, it has ruined the race for the majority of that grouping, and has caused a lot of retirements.
And Lucas Muller, who started, I think it was outside top 5, he's coming to the pit lane. Is that a drive-through penalty? Is that damage? Either way, he is dropping well out of the points, and yeah, he's going to be having some damage repairs and will not be getting a nice result. So it's all changed up towards the front. We've now got a top 3. We've got Gilbert, Berryman and Poulet. They are top 3 as it stands, pretty much confirmed for the podium, because they have an over 4-second gap back to Davidson in that 4th place. And Matt Caruana has got himself up into P5.
And so, for, like I said, there's a lot of big, heavy hitters that were involved. Now, just courtesy of where the crash happened. But when you talk of like some of the names that are now either out of the race or down the order, you've got Josh Ladney, you've got Ryan McAuliffe, you've got Luke McEwen, you've got James Armstrong, you've got Moreno, Sarika, Matt Emery, Gordy Much. They're all down there now, which means it's a great opportunity for a lot of drivers that have maybe not had the best round to come up and score some decent points, including this driver here, by the way. Let's have a little word about Ted Bradbury, who, again, one of the fastest drivers in these cars, finished 7th in the season last year with a victory at Silverstone, has gone from the rear of the field after basically having to start from the rear in both races, courtesy of a penalty after media day, has worked his way up, as you can see there, 23 spots into 6th. That is very impressive.
Yeah, of course, a bit of carnage helping that, but some great racecraft as well. As to the front, Berryman has his opportunity at race victory. Couldn't quite do it in the last race, bit of contact with Caruana, but this time around, is he going to make it stick? Around the outside, it's going to be a bit of a cutback, potentially. No, he's still trying to find a way past. He's been looking at the rear end of the race leader for so many laps over the course of the 2 races, but he's now got 4 minutes to try and find his way there and get the 25 points.
Yeah, this is going to be a tough one, though. I'm sure Berryman's going to be bold here, is going to try something, but if Berryman's going to do something, Poulet's going to try and make it 3 wide based on the previous race. Surely there's got to be something. This race is definitely not over, and Remy Gilbert will be feeling that. At the moment, if they don't make any silly mistakes, there's a guaranteed podium for the 3 of them, but they all want to be taking that victory as we do go a little bit 3 wide to the outside. Peter Berryman's going to go for the race lead. The up and under might work in the number 33's favour. The Freedom UK driver trying to take over 2nd spot from Peter Berryman, who will take the defensive line in his Storm Force ART car, and there will be no switches in this grouping. Matt Caruana, though, has worked his way through on Davidson for 4th.
Oh, that was so close to Berryman. He couldn't go any faster into Druids to defend because Gilbert was right ahead of him, but he had enough speed there, enough momentum to hold on to Poulet. Going to see Poulet is going to get a bit of a wide exit, going to try and straighten up the wheel as early as he can and get the run. He actually does so on Berryman as we come across the front straight. Now, this is certainly a good opportunity to try and make an overtake, but he's going to have to try and do that switchback in towards turn 1. The issue is he's too far sort of to the outside this time around, so it's going to have to be right on the exit, but Berryman just holds it to the apex nicely.
That was really nice from Berryman. That is so frustrating when you're in Poulet's boots because there's just nothing you can do about it. When you could see that Josh was trying to do the up and under going to Paddock Hill, but the opportunity was covered off brilliantly by one of the most experienced drivers on this field. A multiple champion in the world of sim racing, and certainly someone who's got his nous when it comes to open wheel driving. Again, I said before, when we speak in British Formula 4 Esports terms, did finish 3rd in the championship last year after a fairly consistent run throughout his the 2022 campaign, but now obviously wants to start on the best way. I said before, took 4 victories last year, would love to start this season by taking a 5th in the 2nd round of the evening.
So yeah, certainly would, and that would be a really good way to to start the season. Of course, getting the points in early is always a good one because then you're never chasing when you get further on into the championship. Of course, it's difficult to win a race, especially in a sort of action-packed, intense series like we see with this one. And even with those 16 races, yeah, it's going to be difficult for some of these drivers to win those races. Huge slide there from Gilbert. Is that going to be an omen as we go coming up to already? Is that just going to be a couple of laps to go in this race? Might sneak a 3rd one in, but certainly getting close to the end of this race.
Yeah, I think we definitely have 3 to go, and so let's see if Berryman's going to fully go for this now. He's going to get to the outside of Remy Gilbert. The inside line will surely be taken from Josh Poulet behind. Is there going to be the opportunity this time? Overdriving it a little bit with Remy Gilbert there, as we'll see Berryman get to the outside. outside. Now the full commitment to the outside goes from Josh Poulain, who's trying to get it done at Druids, who'll have to settle over third. It's just not going to work. There's not enough grip out there at the moment.
Certainly not, as they try to just go on the absolute limit to try and find a way past, but it seems it's pretty actually nice to defend around here if you can hold it into those defensive lines in all the important corners. As we come up to 1 minute to go in the final race of the evening, the number 50 Machine of Berryman is really trying to get this victory. Can he find a way past? He's going to have to try and go to the outside, try and get that undercut and a run up towards Druids.
Well, 2 more laps. Gilbert's doing a fantastic job. Would love to take Guild Racing's first victory in the British F4 Esports Championship, but to be fair, I think it might be for Guild Racing's first victories in sim racing. Might well be their number 1 when it comes to taking part in full-blood competition in the world of sim racing. Remy Gilbert, though, with the advantage, and has not put a foot wrong just yet, and I don't think Peter Berryman he'll take a couple of risks here, but it won't be over the line.
Oh, yeah, it's a tricky one. Again, where do you want to make this move? Is it going to be into turn 1? Is it going to be the run up towards Druids? Or is it going to be a final send in towards that chicane at 30 as we come on to the final lap? Gilbert leads Berryman, leads Poulain. And who is going to come out on top? Berryman is so close as we get to the white flag.
Yep, here we go then, straight across the line. The inside line being taken there, the dart back under the inside from Josh Poulain. Remy Gilbert with the advantage, they head their way down the hill. You can see the defensive line that he's taking as once again Berryman will try and send it around the outside. This time it's not going to work, it's Josh Poulain trying to go for the look, but again, Cam, he just can't do it.
Oh, he certainly can't. He's just got one proper braking zone to go at 30. Is there going to be any room, any place for Berryman to dive up the inside? He's so close. He's got a good run, but he's trying to find a way to get his nose up the inside.
Yeah, he's got to go for the up and under here if he's going to go for a move for the race lead. Maybe he'll try and go all the way around outside of Clearways. On this occasion, though, it is not going to work. And Berryman maybe just settling for second place. Into the slipstream is going to be close up towards the line. But Remy Gilbert and Guild Racing are going to take victory here for the first time in the British Formula 4 Esports Championship. It's ahead of Berryman and Stormforce. It's ahead of Josh Poulain, who takes another podium in the evening. Davidson and Caruana so close across the line, just hundredths separating them. And Ted Bradbury from 29th place on the grid, ladies and gents, all the way up to 6th.
And also Vasquez and Arvidsson in behind. They've got some great improvements this race. Think about 19-20 places for them as well. Just showing you if you can keep it somewhat clean in the championship, you can still get a good result. But for Gilbert and for Guild Racing, what an evening has been from them. Gilbert dropped down to about P5 in that race at one point as well, but managed to take victory and hold on to the pressure from an experienced driver like Berryman, who of course came 3rd in the championship last year. And that is a really, really good job from him.
Yeah, it really, honestly, really impressive. Just pieced it together so well, cleanly through the race, and like you say, just left it in a very solid spot. And there's no negatives to say about that. Yes, there was some drama behind, but to be fair, put himself in the right position to avoid said drama. And like I say, when you put a race together like that, it takes that weight off your shoulders. But we'll take a look though at the results. Again, provisional of course, but Remy Gilbert taking that victory. Peter Berryman in 2nd spot, Josh Poulain in 3rd, with Alex Davidson and Matt Caruana 4th and 5th. Ted Bradbury in 6th with Aaron Vasquez. Isaac Arvidsson getting points on the board for Sim Race Sweden Esports, and Duncan Hoffland as well for the Aston Martin Aramco Cognizant Esports team. Ben Hitz inside the top 10, scoring that final point for the Dur Esports team, but still a bit of a shame for them considering where Lucas Muller was in the race. Tobias Olsen, then we get Alvaro Marinero, then Brandon Abrams, Carl Chase, Daniel Cibula, and of course a list of drivers who were very disappointed. Luke McEwen, Manuel Bianca-Lilla, then we get Daniel Parens, Lucas Muller, Matt Emery in 20th position. Obviously retirements from this race. Ryan McAuliffe, Gordy Much, Tamas Simon, James Armstrong, Josh Ladd, Moreno Sirica, and of course for Rachel Concoli, Harley Horton and Stanley Deslandis.
Yeah, what a race that was, and to be honest, that was an awesome way to start the season. It was really close racing, and I think this is going to show just what we're going to see over the next 7 rounds as well. To be honest, I'm really excited to see what is going to go on. It looks like it's going to be a pretty difficult championship to predict, so the drivers who can sort of pull out the results in those action-packed races, they're really going to be contending when we get back to brands.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of drivers taking a lot of positivity from this round. None more so than Guild Racing and Remy Gilbert. For a big esports organisation to take a victory like that, it is a big deal, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely, especially, a proper, championship here as well. Good prize money on the line, good sponsors, good backing as well from British Air Force. So, to get your name out there, especially for a newish team to sim racing as well, to get that step, that's a really sort of confidence booster to them.
And let's think a little bit behind the scenes. Seb Hawkins as well will be pretty happy with the team, but he'll be mostly happy with this driver here. Remy Gilbert will be joining us in the interview after what was an incredible victory. Talk us through one that you had to deal with so much pressure on your shoulders there from Pete Berryman. But at no point in the race did you put a foot wrong. How hard is that around here?
Yeah, I mean, it's really hard. This is my first race with Guild. And to get a race win on the first time is just amazing. I mean, first few laps was pretty sketchy. The tyres were overheating a bit. I dropped down to third and then got the switch back on the first corner and then just led the race from there.
Now, there was plenty of drama behind. Are you aware when all this drama is unfolding? Like, can you see it? Does it kind of affect you in the race, or do you just kind of ignore it and just really focus on what you're doing?
Well, I was sort of just driving normally, and I was looking at my delta. And then next thing I know is the car in fourth is 5 seconds back. So I was like, oh, I can afford to battle a bit and not lose too much time to the people behind. And yeah, I managed to take the win.
Now, what did you do between the two races? Because there's quite a large gap, and I know a lot of drivers want to kind of keep in the rhythm. They want that race to happen immediately. Are you happy with a longer break? Did you sit back? Did you watch the F1600s? Did you get some more practice in, maybe more practice starts, something like that?
Well, I sort of just had a debrief with my manager, just talk about how the race went and anything that I could have done better. And I think it's an all right amount of time, to be honest, because it just gives you time to think about and reflect.
Well, you reflected very well. Let's go with that. Another a victory to add to the list. Congratulations, and of course, good luck next round.
Thank you very much.
Well, there we go. Guild Racing taking a victory here. Remy taking a fantastic one, but having to defend through quite a lot of the race from one Mr. Peter Berryman, who we'll be catching up with in just a moment's time. Peter looked fairly happy in the background of Gordy Much's interview, despite not knowing that the top 8 were the ones reversed. So that meant you had to work from 9th place up to 2nd. You did it really well, though, Peter, and you've got to be fairly happy with that race, surely.
Yeah, I mean, compared to the first race, I'm pretty stoked with that. Maybe don't look it, but yeah, it's tough to get out these races. I think we knew it would be a bit messy just because of, naturally the leader defends the inside and then it causes checkups. So, just a bit unfortunate in the first race, but really happy to get through the pack the way I did and, bank some more points on the board.
Now, you're one of the drivers that took part last season and obviously did the entirety of last season. I know there's a few out there. How does this season compare to last season? Has there been any different approaches, any thing you've kind of like learnt from last season that you're applying more so here, or is it all kind of just treated very similar?
I think very similar for the most part. I think in terms of preparation and whatnot, it's a lot. The tracks are pretty much the same, similar tracks we go to, so we sort of know what to expect. I think just as messy as it is, I think that's just what you have to expect, really. It's not necessarily people being bad, if that's the way to put it. It's just, naturally you've got a lot of guys fighting over the same pieces of track, and it just gets a bit messy because of that. But yes, similar approach, and pace looks good, so we just got to keep doing what we're doing and hopefully bring the pace forward to the bigger tracks when it gets a bit more spread out, hopefully.
And also, I just kind of let's touch on the atmosphere inside the team at the moment. How are kind of things? Obviously, the first race a bit disappointing. You finished down in 9th. Obviously, Luke, the champion, having a couple of issues. Let's put it that way. With an incident with Josh Ladd. even on the JHRs, I'm sure Gordy Much won, but still a bit of disappointment. How is it in the camp at the moment? Is it still fairly positive? Is this kind of what you were expecting from Brands Indy, a chaotic circuit at the best of times?
Yeah, I think for the most part it's pretty positive. I think a lot of us sort of expected it would be the way it was. Obviously, ups and downs, even from race to race for us. But I mean, in the centre, it's just quite nice to me. Obviously, we've got the RaceSport guys. They're in the rigs beside me here doing laps for that. And we've got obviously the guys out in the customer area. So I think in general, it's quite positive and fun. We sort of expected it to be the way it was, but of course, you're going to leave every round, no matter how good the round is, thinking you could have had a bit more out of it.
Well, Pete, we'll see you obviously in a week's time, and fingers crossed it goes a little bit better for you even there. Maybe we'll see another victory.
Hopefully, fingers crossed. Thanks, guys.
There we go. Peter Berman into second position then in this race, and obviously moving up the standings after a disappointing first one. We'll have to catch up though with Josh Poulain as well, who had an incredible run, finished in third position for the second consecutive race, and told us before at the end of the last race that he wasn't going to go too aggressive on any of those moves. There were some pretty aggressive ones out there, some great moves. I mean, how was that for you? You did get a bit elbows out, and it was great to see.
Yeah, well, you know, I like to think that the moves were okay. They had to be aggressive, and like I said, you have to be kind of assertive and dominant around this track, and I think those moves were. And if you're going to commit, you have to fully commit here. So, but yeah, 2 P3s in a championship league, can't complain too much with that.
Brands Indy, particularly, is a really difficult circuit to overtake. But as we move through some of them, obviously, in a week's time, we'll be racing at Donington National. Are you confident, that the moves that you've put on here, that you'll actually be able to work your way through at Donington National, or is that kind of just like we'll deal with that when we get to it?
I mean, for sure. I mean, racecraft is racecraft. If you've got some half decent racecraft in one track, you can carry it over to the next. I like to think if we can do it here, we can do it anywhere. You got more space at other tracks, so more spaces for errors. So we'll see what happens.
You did a bit of last season doing just the couple of rounds. We did get quite a few retirements to your list. To bring that up on the broadcast. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Was that kind of on your mind when you came into this round? Because you look like a completely different driver to what we saw last season.
Yeah, I mean, I've had some time away since last season. I obviously had my season in GT4 as well in the Ginetta. And I think when you go and do that real life season, you come back to the sim, your racecraft goes from being down here to up there. You got to look after your car more in real life. So I think taking that from real life to the sim has really helped.
Well, Josh, hopefully we see more of this coming over the next few rounds of the championship, because it's been a great show. Thank you, and again, keep putting on those moves.
Thank you very much. Have a nice evening, guys. Cheers.
Cheers, Josh. Well, Cam, there we go. All basically done for the evening after what has been an incredible opener to the 2023 championship.
Absolutely love this evening of racing. Those 4 races gave us action to the very end in all of them. And to be honest, the race lead wasn't set in any of them, or at least the podiums were not set. Loads of action and loads of carnage as well. So yeah, can't wait to see what's going to happen for the remainder of the season.
Yeah, of course, we will be back in just a week's time. We'll be going racing around Donington Park National. Should be a lot of fun, this one. The National one is the one with the final chicane, rather than going around the hairpins. Set in Leicestershire. I refuse to accept that it's Derbyshire. I'm a Derbyshire boy myself, but it's not Derbyshire. It is Leicestershire. I will not have it.
Yeah, it's another one where the county lines basically go right, but between the track.
It's about 200 metres if you went straight on at Redgate at turn 1. We won't talk about it. I know it's got a Derby postcode. We're not going into it. That'll be next week, though. Great track. Love this one. It's fantastic for racing. And Cam, I think we're going to be in for a great show in both the British Formula 4 Esports Championship as well as those F1600s. I think they're going to be great around here.
Oh, absolutely. It's a bit more of a momentum-based track as well. So I definitely think, especially for the 1600s, the exit of those corners is going to be so important. So yeah, the racing should be fast and frantic once again and ever unpredictable.
Well, that is us done for the evening. I've been listening to Cam Rod has been alongside me. We hope that you join us in a week's time. It is going to be so much fun. Obviously, Connery Maddock behind the scenes, bringing us the broadcast as well as our sponsors in Base Performance Simulators, Wave Italy and World Sim Racing. We should be in for a lot of fun in just a week's time when the championship continues at Donington Park. Until then, though, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you then. Have a very warm goodbye.